I will now call to order the study session meeting of April 25th, 2022. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person council meetings in council chambers. Public access to tonight's meeting is also available on the Local Government Access Channel 8 for Comcast subscribers, on the city's YouTube channel online, and by telephone using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, I believe, will be absent. Councilmember Wikovich.
Here.
Councilmember Padmio.
Here.
Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, the only agenda item for our study session tonight is the City Hall project update, schematic design phase. Eric Enzi, our senior planner, is here to introduce it. Hi.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. We first of all would like to say thank you for coming in at 5:30 this evening. We do feel that this discussion is super important, and to devote enough time to be able to get your feedback on this project we feel is really important, so we appreciate that. AMD Architects are here this evening to provide an update on the schematic design phase of the new City Hall project. Just as a reminder, the SD phase is the initial design phase in the architectural process for designing any new building. At this point, we are about halfway through that process, and we anticipate that will take approximately 12 weeks in totality, which will coincide to about the end of June, or end of May or June. So the AMD team will use their time this evening here to go ahead and recap with you the architectural camp, as a group setting, have a discussion with you all about some of the things that they heard, and further discuss and refine some of those ideas in an attempt to bring you back a final package at the May 23rd meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Joey and Stefan now, and they'll go ahead and give you their presentation.
Thank you all for having us, and it's good to see you all again. It's really just been a quick week, but a lot has gone on. The agenda is here today, and we'll just jump right in. So the first 5-10 minutes, we really want to give you an update on sustainability. I know we had talked a lot about the goals, core certification by the Institute for Living Futures. International Living Futures Institute. I always get that wrong. And then after that, we'll go into the work session. And the presentation is not 65 minutes for the work session, just to be clear. We want to get through that in 20 minutes, more or less, 25 minutes, and then leave a really good chunk of time to discuss. And I know not all council members are able to be here in person, but we have brought the physical model that we've used in our past architecture camps. And after this initial presentation, we'd love to invite everyone down, if you're comfortable with it, and we can gather around the model and continue the discussion. I will not, I'll lead with the opener. We have not found anything that would preclude you from pursuing core. We've continued to study the issue. We know we brought several issues to the table. And so the design team, in support of the staff, and if in support of the council here, we believe we're going to be pursuing core until we find that it's absolutely not possible. Right now, we have not found a thing that is not insurmountable. There are challenges. And we just wanted to make it clear, and I think ask the question now, and I'll pause and I'll ask the question, that it is the council's preference to pursue core in lieu of LEED.
I believe that's what we said last time.
Okay. And that is what we heard, and we just want to make sure we're going down that path. So I wanted to take 5 minutes and give a little more background information about core and some of the things we've discovered, and hopefully some of the things that we found very exciting, and we hope you will too. This diagram simply says the fundamental idea of the Living Building Challenge is that sustainability is in the past has gotten us from 100 years of negative environmental impacts of a building industry to a neutral state that is sustainable. Well, the Living Building Challenge, it says that buildings can and should be agents of good. They can be regenerative to the land. They can produce more energy than they consume. They can produce more water than they consume. So that is the goal of the Living Building Challenge. And they also acknowledge that you don't go from 0 to 100 in a day. And so there are steps to do that. And so the core certification is an important step in doing just that. And so the 10 core performance required imperatives are the ones that we've studied. And we've had a 4-hour work session with the full design team, with city staff to be able to understand core. And so at that workshop, we did establish preliminary performance goals, and this was based on the City Council's established vision and desire to understand if core is feasible. And from that, we have found, yes, it's feasible. From there, we have set some measurements and conditions and some performance goals. We use this workshop to establish some early understanding, potential impacts on the design, and there will be. So we have our arms around the challenges ahead. It doesn't mean that we have solved the challenges, but we think we understand the task at hand. To date, no issues have yet been.
Interrupt you just
yes,
real
please.
quick.
Yeah.
Just for the benefit of council members at home and then on the dais, Joanna's working on being able to share the presentation. It was a tight turnaround time, so Stefan brought the presentation tonight with him, which is why we didn't do our normal process. So apologies
Okay.
on that, but you'll
We're
have it.
just used to having it on our screens as well,
Oh,
especially if I can't see what it says. So it's not a big deal. I was just looking for it, thinking I was confused.
No.
well, maybe I'll go back here because
There is just stuff I want to see, I
Yes,
think is why I got
absolutely.
distracted.
thank you for pausing that. Sorry, I had the assumption that it was in your screen, so my apologies.
That's okay, that's okay. Joanna, are you going to email them? Because we should probably, or are you just going to share? Oh,
There it is.
perfect. Got it. Okay,
Um,
cool.
You're good, Stefan.
Okay, so we'll continue on. I will start at this next slide. There we go. So the core principles, which is it is a certification level that requires 10 imperatives to be met. And I'm going to quickly go over in a future slide the core idea behind a number of these imperatives. The zero energy certification is also something that is within attainability. If you all do achieve true net zero, then the zero energy certification, it's one of the easiest certifications you can get. You simply submit 12 months of your utility bills and show that you are net zero. So that's why both the zero energy certification and the core certification are circled. And going towards net zero actually contributes, of course, there's some synergies there, contributes to core. And the last, the Living Building Challenge pedal certification it is highlighted simply because there is a path to receive that higher certification if you achieve all the imperatives of core and you also achieve a higher level of energy efficiency and you produce more energy. So it's around, you have to produce around 105% of the energy that you consume. So that involves purchasing battery storage, and it's a bit more involved. And right now, in our explorations, that doesn't seem, that would be a stretch goal. But that doesn't seem something in the baseline that we would be able to pursue. But we'll continue to study that, and as we begin developing the design further, we can revisit that. So here are the points that I made earlier. I think the biggest thing that came out of this workshop is getting a picture and a lay of the land of enough detail for the design team to feel comfortable that we can continue down this path. And because core certification is not based on modeling or prescriptive paths like other certifications like LEED, it is actually based on measurement. So when the building's done, you are not a core building. You receive a temporary certification that says you are an in-progress core building. And so you can market that. The Institute for Living Futures wants you to be able to promote that and tell that you are pursuing that. But you don't receive the core certification till the year after the building opens because it's actually based on measurement. So a little more about core and about this certification. So it's all built around the metaphor of the flower. And I think this line says it all. Buildings can be flowers when they're rooted in place. Energy, water is all harvested locally on the site. It's adapted to its own climate and site. And it's comprised of systems that integrate to create an incredibly beautiful product. And I think that is at the heart of core, and that continues through in how they describe the certification and the different imperatives, or what they call petals. And so there are 7 petals: place, water, energy, health and happiness, materials, equity, and beauty. And within each of these, the core icon there, the little green spiral, has the 10 imperatives that you have to get to achieve core. So there's 20 up here. That would get you the full living building challenge. The 10 are the ones you need to achieve core. And so we went through and we probably spent a half hour on each of these elements in the workshop. And on some, like energy, we probably spent even more than that, about an hour. And we really jumped in with our engineering team and to really understand what we needed to do. And I think it's safe to say, I want to be respectful of time and make sure we get to the real show, that we're going to continue down this path. And if any big hiccups come up that we uncover over the next month, we'll be sure to bring that to you at the next meeting. But right now, we're going to continue down that path. So with that said, I'll pause there. If there's any questions on that, or if anyone wants me to elaborate more, I'm happy to do so. We can make the core standards available to everyone. They're also readily available online. I know we talked to a few of you in the architecture camp that people had looked at the core standards and were very excited about them. So, okay, so on to schematic design. And wanted to pause here and just have a baseline of what we're doing here today. This is another working session, and we are not here to ask you to make a choice. We are here to really continue to talk about ideas, but we wanted to refine those ideas. I think a number of the ideas will look very familiar. I mean, we are only a week away from talking to most of you, and so this is very much a continuation of Architecture Camp. And so what we're going to go through today is 3 distinct proposals, which should look fairly familiar, but refined and taken into consideration of a lot of our discussions, a lot of the ideas that were thrown out there, a lot of the builds that you all had made and we had made together, and using that and around the model, the physical model, as a gathering place for our discussion. And for those online, we'll be sure to utilize the digital PowerPoint so you all are included. So the outcomes tonight, I think we're still identifying themes and ideas, and themes and ideas that support the project mission. So the next slide, we'll have the project mission. We'll go over some of that context. Ideas that reinforce the Civic 7 master plan. We'll go over that again very briefly. You all have seen that. But just to refresh our memories, get in the mode of the context that we've built around this project, which will be the way that we can evaluate these ideas and themes. And then I think the best ideas, we often say they build consensus, they're malleable, meaning they can function very well in multiple schemes. And so what we come back with on May 23rd, it may not look like any of these, but the theme should be very recognizable. The ideas behind them should be very recognizable. So the project mission, this hasn't changed, and it's always an in-progress mission, and it can change at any moment as more information is uncovered. But right now, we feel it speaks to, after diving into the detail, it really does speak to some of the goals and really salient points that the City Hall should achieve. So we've taken the master plan and included it here, and we've taken out these bullet points simply to be able to highlight. There were a number of key elements highlighted during the master planning process, these are the ones that the City Hall specifically can play a real part in and can really help establish and set the stage for a civic center. So welcoming and respectful edge on Community Center Drive. And we've added an iconic edge. I think that is a word that is thrown around in numerous architecture camps. And so that is something that will be part of the discussion. The City Hall has a frontage on both Community Center Drive and Memorial Parkway. Again, it's not just an iconic building, but it's a welcoming building, and it is about creating gateway that speaks to the residents of Northglenn. E.B. Raines Memorial Park is brought into Civic Center, and the City Hall has the opportunity now to become an object in the park. And you've all have seen this, you know this. I think that was probably nebulous when you heard say this the first time 3 weeks ago. You're like, an object in the park. But not having gone through architecture camp, I hope you can see how it frees up the potential for this to truly be a unique building that is different than anything else that will be on the Civic Center campus. The activation of Memorial Parkway, being on Memorial Parkway, it really, there's opportunity to engage the edge. I'll point to the model, or actually I'll point there. The intersection of Memorial Parkway, the northwestern corner of the building site, and how that activates, and what the synergies are there between the building and Memorial Parkway. Pedestrian linkages and development, and then small parks and green spaces. I think the City Hall, the entire site becomes a green space, and not just any green space, a green space that is different than any you have in E.B. Raines Park, because we are pursuing the core imperative of no potable water. And so that green space within the City Hall landscape will be a xeric landscape. It will be of the native ecology. And just a quick side note going backwards, with city staff, with the Public Works Department, discussions with Eric and Brooke and Tammy Moon and Northglenn's water attorneys, they do feel that water can be captured on this site. And I know that was a discussion we had last time, so that's really exciting. The amount of water, I think, we're still balancing, but there is a path forward. So that legal hurdle to achieve core seems like we can get over that. So that was a really, I know, one of the sticking points of core, pursuing core, and I think that one is has some more clarity now. So this may be very, hopefully on your screen, you can see it. The size of the building hall, 31,500 gross square feet. The red number at the top in the middle. That's the gross square footage of the building. And the major components of the building, the community and shared space will be in red. The office spaces in the bluish teal, and the orangish yellow, the marigold, are the shared spaces, the conference rooms, the break rooms, the amenity spaces. So those breakdowns are over there. So that's the building blocks that you see on the table. So with that context, a quick recap of Architecture Camp itself. I know for those who were able to make it, thank you. I know there were a couple that weren't, and not to worry, you're not out of the conversation. This is a continuation of Architecture Camp. Your voice is very much here to be heard. So it was very successful. I think we saw over 30 staff members over 2 days, 2 full days that we spent here, and we got a lot done. The ideas and themes that came out of it, I think, were compelling. I think people were very engaged. People were very sincere and honest, and it showed how much everyone involved cares about this process and about this project. I think the outcomes, we did tease out very identifiable themes that I think we can respond to, and we're bringing to you today. So the other thing we were able to do is develop a key set of questions and site questions that we've begun to answer. We've begun to throw propositions into the mix, and I think we've begun to synthesize 12, 15 different builds into the 3 you see on the table today. And so here's just 10 of the builds. You can see a number of the activities, and there's Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Lukman Hiromasa building model, a number of staff members. And the 3 ones at the bottom, I think, were developed near the latter part of the second day of architecture camp, are ones that seem to have a lot of consensus built around them from a number of perspectives. So I think those are the ones that I think will lead today's discussion. So the key themes and site questions. And so we'll really quickly just go around the horn. This number 1 is about bringing the park. How do we bring the park into the City Hall building site? And we posed that question during camp, and I think there's a number of different propositions and ways to do that. But the 3 on the table do it in perhaps 2 very distinct ways, and there's some subtle nuances too that we can discuss around that. The second is pedestrian linkages, but also visibility to and from the park, and how elevated parts of the building, how different program pieces and community spaces engage the park. 3 is the bosque. Can we, do we, how do we protect the bosque? Can a building form be shaped around that bosque in the existing topography? A lot of these should sound familiar to many of you. So, but I wanted to make sure to recap it so we're all, for those who couldn't join, certainly are up to speed. Let's see, number 4 there in the middle of City Hall. That simply asks the question, all the arrows that are pointing to and from City Hall, what activities and what programs within the City Hall engage its borders? So we know engagement of Festival Lawn and Memorial Parkway is very important. The main entry not facing north in, the main entry having multiple entry points. The gateway and beacon, I think that can be done very successfully in a number of different diagrams, but how that faces Community Center Drive, the engagement of the park, the service drive, all 3 of these diagrams have an assumption that you want to put your service on the upper side of the hill, not on your pedestrian and public edges of the building. Oh, yes.
Councilmember Brown has a question.
Yes.
Silly question. Remind me what a bosque is?
Oh, it is the group of trees that currently exists on the southeast side. So there's a ridge, and as you turn in to the southern entry of the site, there's all those mature pine trees. And so we're simply asking, how can we save those?
Thank you very much.
Let's see. So number 5 is about engaging Memorial Parkway. Number 6 is about the 15-foot grade change from the south of the site to the north of the site, high point being on the south. Number 7 is the Veterans Memorial, and how to create a respectful relationship to the Veterans Memorial. Number 8 is the Front Range views, and the Front Range views, we know that we think they're directly west. Your rec center is directly west, so your Front Range views are. You have to remember that our Front Range views are a full cone, right? That's our Front Range view, not just that. So, and then there's the number 9 is the linkage to the theater, and of course the linkage to the rec center on the other side on Memorial Parkway. Number 10 is how to respond to sun and solar conditions. 11 is what does interior space dedicated to staff look like? Number 12 is the prevailing winds are typically from the north and the west in our area, and creating microclimates out of really comfortable outdoor spaces. And then 13 is the parking lot, and how that parking lot becomes a part of the landscape of City Hall. That parking lot is serving City Hall. We know it'll have some shared use. Well, it will have shared use with the theater and the rec center, yet to be determined. Visitor parking shared use, potentially for the future townhomes and live-work units. But that landscape and the City Hall need to have one complexion. And that even gets into questions of how we capture water. Can we extend our footprint to capture more water by capturing water off the parking lot and cleaning that water either through bioswales or running the water into the medians to be able to filter that water before it goes into your cisterns to be able to irrigate with. And I think that's it. There are more site questions, but that, I hope, recaps a lot of the things we talked about during architecture camp. And I think we're gonna, if there's any questions, I'm gonna move on into the schemes, and I think that's, yeah. Okay, so the first one, for those who can see, you probably can't see, that's okay. We'll get into the physical modeling after the digital presentation where you can all come up. So on the screen, the park and the pavilion. And the idea behind this is that you have this landscape and iconic pavilion low down in the foreground. And by low down, I mean your public spaces, and that can be council chambers, or we'll show you the plan. It's very easily interchangeable. We received feedback. One diagram showed the council chambers out here. We received feedback from the mayor and her architecture camp about concerns of having the council chambers on this exposed corner. And so the council chambers can certainly be under the building in this diagram as well. And you'll see that in a plan coming up. But the building itself from Community Center Drive steps up, and you have this pavilion that welcomes visitors that is at a lower scale. And then the yellow intermediary space is the gathering of the collaboration space. And so we've been calling it this interconnected active space. So it's where your conference rooms go, and it can be connected through a series of bridges. And so when you enter the building on this northern edge, or even from the theater entry, the bridges connect a series of community spaces that are above you. And so the openness of the lobby and the collaboration zones, it has an effect of pulling people out of their offices and into the collaboration zone. And I think those are the salient points. We'll get into it a little more. This diagram in particular, we know we're going to need a lot of roof space. We're not sure how much. But in earlier calculations and programming, around 10,000 square feet was a target of photovoltaic roof space. Well, this roof, the high roof here is a bit under that. It's around 8,000. So we know there is likelihood of having to extend the photovoltaic canopy. But that photovoltaic canopy in this diagram can be this really expressive component of the building. And we did hear in architecture camp some voices the concern about gateway and beacon, and how this pavilion may not be at the proper scale along Community Center Drive. And so by extending that canopy, perhaps there's a way to respond to that, and to let the canopy be the beacon from up high, while the pavilions themselves, the canopy can be a backdrop, while the pavilions are still the foreground and nestled in the landscape. The floor plans here, still in sketch form and intentionally very loose, show a lobby with several entry points. There's 2 entry points for the public, and then the entry points would be more secure. We know there was a desire for the community rooms to have outdoor space. We saw precedents in which community rooms open outdoors. They have their own entry. They can be closed off from the balance of the building. And so the pavilion in the park allows you to group amenities together along these community spaces and have its own entry point that can be closed off from the balance of the building. On this diagram, I will click to the next one. Oh, that was a hot... Yikes. Okay. So as you can see, flipping back and forth, the council chambers perhaps is better suited tucked in under the building and under the main mass, in that it can engage festival lawn, it can engage the Memorial Parkway, and the Community Center Drive has visibility for these community rooms. But the council chambers is tucked away and not in this exposed position. So I think there's some interchangeable, the ability to locate your community space that is a bit more tailored and custom. On the floor plans here on level 2, you can see this public space that we called out, that bar of yellow, that intermediary zone. there's a series of cuts within the floor, and those series of cuts within the floor enable you to see up to the space, to be able to see up into collaboration zones, and from the office environments, you can gather outside of your office environment into shared collaboration space. And on level 3, it can afford you a rooftop terrace that is potentially covered. So the section in 3D, if you imagine a section cut, right where this blue line is, looking in the direction of the arrow, here's the section of the building where you can see that interconnected amenity zone connected by bridges, a formal stair, a sculptural stair, maybe a seated area, and the office environments in the front and the back of this section cut all feed in to this zone of collaboration, this interconnected amenity zone. And you can see how the canopy, the photovoltaic canopy, would actually be able to shade the rooftop terrace, would be able to shade, and so that would afford you the opportunity to have more glass in this position, to be able to shade that area. And so we just wanted to show a few precedents of what that might be, of what that could be. This could be a number of things. But you can see that interconnected idea of bridges. And so the office environments in this plan, this is a GSA building in Seattle. And so it is a government building. And the interior of this building is all about, it's creating an interior landscape. And I think that the power of this idea is literally you're bringing the landscape through past the pavilions and into the interior of a space like this. Here's a view, a precedent of canopy being that beacon or that marker. And so you can see this is a 2-story building, but that canopy extending, and this is a more recent build, and it is often the case that you need more PV than roof area. It's becoming more of the case for a net zero building. And so I think this precedent shows how graceful an expression that can be. This idea is simply about, we know that the orientation of the building we have in this scheme is north-south orientation, and so we'll have to deal with sunlight. As the sun sets, those windows on the west will receive a lot of sun, and so these are strategies we have deployed. Vertical photovoltaics, which are not necessarily the most productive, but there is a showcase element to that. And if done strategically, it can be a really elegant solution to shading of your western facades and eastern facades. Similarly, here's a similar idea, but simply done through screens and a mesh that gives you that visual permeability, but blocks a significant amount of the sun, which will be an important element as we dig into the energy modeling of a net zero building. This is an idea of a council chambers that is in the foreground, a pavilion in the park, if you will, behind a backdrop of the larger mass of a building. The other thing that this really celebrates is a council chambers that has the ability to be activated directly from the public at times when it's available, when council is not in session. So it gives flexibility, and it puts a council chambers into a public space and gives it more flexibility in its use. Before I move on, Joey, is there anything you wanted to add about this one? So we'll keep going. So here's the summary of that one, and we'll go through the next two. Please stop me if you have any questions, and then we'll chat. So this one we've been calling the collaborative cores, and that is derived from the idea. I think this was built. There was an earlier version of this where it had a much more pronounced Y scheme. I think we remodeled that with several of you as we were here in different ways, putting the council chambers in its own position off Memorial Parkway. This one grows the floor plate to be wider. And by doing that, it gives you these collaborative cores on the inside. And so employees and office environments can occupy the exterior of the building. That doesn't mean there's a perimeter office and anyone in an open workstation just has to be in that. It's the opposite of that. It's that some of these might be open workstations, some of them might be private offices, but everyone's afforded daylight and views, and you come to the middle of the building. And so there's the idea of coming to the middle of the building within a smaller neighborhood and then coming to the core of the building itself. So there's almost this nesting of scales in how you can collaborate. Yes.
So how would the photovoltaic panel work on this?
This one has a larger roof area, and so, obviously we don't know how many photovoltaics are here. So this one, all of them would need photovoltaics.
Mm-hmm.
And we may get to a point where any proposition we have has to have some version of that canopy.
I guess my question is that this building is not rectangular.
Yeah.
So the panels are, so
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious.
we would probably simply strategically rest PVs on top of the footprint of that building. I mean, I guess to go back to the original diagram, it was a pretty heroic roof canopy. And I think what comes with that is cost. And why that scheme lends itself to doing that strategy is because the building is a little bit more modest in what it's doing compared to this one. Right, this one has, we're being a little bit provocative this evening with these diagrams. This one has a kind of sensual quality about it in terms of the rounded edges. And so we're kind of redirecting in the back of our minds how the budget is being deployed with these. So you wouldn't put a canopy on this one because you frankly would never get there. But you would have to put PVs and they would just simply rest on the roof.
So this one, I think Joey hit it on the nail on the head in saying this is provocative. We need to be smart about how we're deploying our budget, right? And this one, I think, is about taking that budget and putting it into a very, very unique form, but which, there are other strategies there. I think the nuances of that, I think we'll save for the discussion, but when you just simply think about how this diagram activates the various spaces, it creates this eddy and this node that can be respectful of a Veterans Memorial. You always enter in the pockets between, and each one, these two being the primary, and the third being more the private area, that when you come through this lobby and you come through this atrium space, you can actually see through into the landscape. And so you have this other more private garden just beyond you. Each of these schemes, I should mention as well, is that this building being a 50 to 100-year building, it does need to plan for 30 years from now, 40 years from now. The city may need to grow, right? And so this site, it was part of our consideration in recommending this site for the master plan, but there is room for growth. And all of these schemes suppose there's room for growth where the bosque is, right, where the existing trees are.
That is to say that maybe we'll let another architect deal with one day when those trees might need to come down.
Okay, that's fair.
So the floor plans here, the council chambers, engaging the most public and active corner of the building, perhaps allowing it to open up at certain times of day, maybe even having panels or things that can close off the dais when it's not in use. And so you truly can turn this into a community room. You can see how the description of that cradling of the Veterans Memorial and creating that eddy across the way, that connection to the theater and that pedestrian pathway through the tree-lined promenade that goes through the parking lot. and then allowing grade to be dealt with, the existing grade and the existing trees to be saved over here with service on the backside. On the upper levels, this core, the stair itself travels all 3 levels, but the level 3 is situated on the site where it might afford you views to the west and to the park. And so putting the height of your building in the area where you may have those view corridors based on the master plan and where it sits. And we'll put this model on the site so you can get a sense of what those view corridors are. The section of this one is cut on this diagonal right through the council chambers and then through the lobby and the collaborative core. And so you can see the stair itself having the potential for the expression that follows the form of the building, but the visible lines, similar to the last idea of the collaborative space that is a series of bridges, this one is a bit more contained and a bit more focused, and the activity occurs around it. And so as you look up, in this scheme, the way it's rendered now, you may see more things directly versus in the other scheme, you might have to walk under one bridge or through the space to experience the full lobby and the full collaboration zone. So this focuses it really at the core. And then, of course, like all schemes, to answer your question, Councilmember Goff, about photovoltaics is it, yeah, the photovoltaics would not be a heroic gesture, but they would all be present on this scheme. And within the cores and within the wider footprint, you will need to get daylight into those cores. And so the views are afforded to where people spend most of their time in their offices and their workstations, but you still want wonderful daylight and experience of the space when you're in the collaborative core, either within the office environment in these cores. So the suggestion is that we would be pulling daylight into the building, flooding these spaces. So here's an example, a precedent. This is a new building that we've done at Denver University. This irregular atrium and core space and collaborative zones all within this atrium. This building, the program's different. It's a student commons. It's basically a student union, if you will, a newer version. So that one is the collaborative cores. And so this last one is what we've been calling the ascending building. And that simply has to do with, there's a similar layout. You can see, many of you may remember this, of putting the council chambers again in relationship to Memorial Parkway. But as you travel past the chambers or enter from the parking lot, the collaborative space ascends up the building. And so you'll probably get a better idea of it. This does put the larger mass of the building, similar to the last iteration, onto the corner. More of an iconic gateway and beacon presence on the corner. But the low point of the building begins at the council chambers and rises up. And so the floor plans also show several different ways that you can get into the lobby. This would have a separate entrance for this community collaboration space. Let's see, there in the middle of the core, as you come up on level 1, this is a stair, and we'll have precedent images of it, but it's an occupiable stair. So the reason that it looks so wide is that truly it's a series of benches, of stadium seating that people can sit and inhabit those spaces, and the stair runs up one side. And so that is an expression of ascending and being able to inhabit and collaborate on spaces and invite the public into these spaces as you're going up the building and as you're navigating the building. And so level 2, like a lot of these schemes, we have to deal with the grade, and so there would be another staff entry on level 2 with service. And so you would get to the heart and the knuckle of this collaboration zone on level 2 as well. Here's a building section that cuts right through the heart. So in line with Veterans Memorial, cutting through the entry plaza and back through the road beyond. So this would be looking at the council chambers beyond. The Veterans Memorial would be just to the right of the image, outside of the image. And as you enter the lobby point, the roof line and the building itself would feel as if the whole building is opening up in front of you. And as you get to these inhabitable stairs, the collaboration zone of the full building reveals itself. And what's not shown in this section is that behind you, where this section is cut, if you were to travel around up this stair and take a left, you would get to another set of stairs to take you to the 3rd level. And again, occupying the roof with photovoltaics, ensuring that larger floor plates, as is in the north side of this building, where this yellow wedge is shown, having some form of daylight to really bring light into that core. And so here's one precedent in Pennsylvania. And this building is all about ascending. And so the spaces may not be, instead of having one core in which you see a lot of the collaboration spaces all around the core, your path of travel, you don't get lost in this building at all, because there's kind of one path of travel, and then you go back out. So the legibility of the building is actually quite logical as well. But you can see from the exterior the prow that is formed within this precedent, the beacon, if you will. Here's a couple of projects. This is an innovation center for the St. Vrain Valley School District. This is on the Rary campus, Metro State's Aerospace Engineering Science Building. Both had different scales of occupiable stairs. And so it may not be within the city's desire to have a scale of an occupiable stair this big, but maybe this is too small. So I think that's something that we would work through, through design. But it gives you a flavor and an idea of what an occupiable stair is, what this forum stair we often call them. Here, this building is finishing up construction on the National Western Center. This is a CSU building, an agriculture building specifically dedicated to food and food research. And this building is all about ascending as well. And this building navigates 5 stories, but the idea is the same. A number of stairs and places that you know where to go simply because you go along the path and you go up. Here's a couple smaller versions of this building in a Rary campus for CU Denver's Student Commons building. And with that, I think we've gone through the 3 various schemes, and I think we'd love to invite you all up around the model if you're willing to get up, and we'll have the microphone on the table so everyone on virtually can participate, and we can flip through the slideshow if there's anything we want to see, and we want to put these models into the building or into the site, and just kind of give everyone a sense. Let some of this marinate.
Okay, so we guessing it's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, but which one do you want to?
Start with that one.
Start with one. Yeah.
You're okay. I spent time with them
So
on
again,
Friday afternoon.
We could just put PVs on the roof, but we were just, since it's a smaller footprint, and there are other opportunities that would present itself in the way of.
Heather, is there any way for the camera person to just zoom in on that? Zoom in on the model so we could see it, or no?
That might be difficult, I don't know, I can't speak for him. But.
Just asking.
He's working on it, Becky.
Thank you.
So in addition to expanding the footprint of PV, it also provides an opportunity for an occupiable outdoor space that would keep you from getting baked to it.
And these are solar panels on this side too.
And this was
For shade.
this was the notion that recognizing that we are creating this western exposure, that we might be able to fold that canopy down
Okay.
to both provide shade as well as increase the capacity of PV.
Mhm.
But, you know, this comes to be because there's a kind of modesty about the massing of the building
Right.
that's deployed to be able to do that.
In one of our discussions as well, this particular scheme allows us to control or the budget a bit, right? Because you could imagine if you have a modest base of the building, you can begin to add these other components, and that allows us to isolate them as budget from a budget standpoint. So there's a lot of power in being able to do that versus maybe this one, which you're going all in.
Madam Mayor, I think it was, you referenced you who brought up, kind of having the issue of city council being so exposed. Was it on this model right here?
Yes.
I was kind of curious. I kind of want.
a security thing. I mean, I really like it when it's over here.
Okay.
I think it also, I'm going to use your word, it activates the Memorial Parkway. You guys sound like an architect.
It takes one visit to our studio, that's all it is.
But I like that too. I think, but that's just mine. I just, there's stories in the news. I don't want to be on the news, but it's right on that highway.
Yeah. And it's not contingent, right, on that.
Yeah.
So, and there might simply be merits. I mean, you could make the case that if we simply make these community rooms that are accessible to the community and we put them out there, they really become used by the community. So-
Well, the question I have about that is if people are parking like somewhere here, they're gonna have to walk through the building to get to the community rooms or walk around the building.
Or part of the landscape strategy that we'll be developing is to be able to provide a thoroughfare that gets them to
So they
that
have
location.
to walk around the building. I mean, that was just kind of my thing, is that I prefer the idea of not having people walk all the way around, again, along this busy street where you can't park to get in the building. But there's some way to get around that, I'm sure there is.
But it also helps to activate what you've already invested in, right? Which is this wonderful, Memorial Parkway that,
But there's no parking spaces over there anymore.
I found one.
Yeah, you can't find them, that's true.
I think you bring up a really good point about how, at what point, if the idea of closing off a portion of the building, allowing the community to inhabit that area and the rest of the building is closed off. I think the floor plan here, I don't think none of these floor plans are right, and that's not the point, but
we can solve that problem.
I think we can solve that problem. It's simply,
Right.
if you have your line of closure here, and the people can occupy the lobby space, the council chambers could be locked in itself, and they simply can occupy, a couple restrooms here, and these 2 community rooms, then maybe that's okay, right? But
So this references 3 ascending building, I wonder where they have up.
No,
Oh, that's the first
This is
one. Oh,
one.
this is the
one.
pavilion.
Okay.
Pavilion.
oh, just, that's the enough for just where the location of the city.
Yeah, because they were saying that they can move that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one exactly, it's interchangeable, really.
Well, there are community rooms we don't currently have in this building, so. That's an addition.
Well, I'm not objecting to this plan, it's just that
Sure,
I
sure.
think there has to be a way to get
Yeah.
public into the public spaces.
Right. Well, and I'm not gonna get in the weeds on parking, but I know you're highlighting this as the council parking, is that correct? Is that gonna be the only,
Well,
not council,
No.
but like
No, I
city
mean,
hall parking is right here?
this is the parking that will be developed that is devoted to City Hall use. And then, I think this is going to be a new roadway that's going to be developed, and I dare to say that we'll probably figure out a way of getting parking along its edges as well. And then there'll probably be fleet parking that we'll need to support that'll find its way somewhere along the southern edge of the site. So as we begin to plan more, at a broader level and begin to look at this, I think we'll begin to address.
Stefan, have everybody use the mic, please. Just working with the council members who are virtual to make sure they can hear comments.
Yeah, Meredith, that's something I was asked at the architecture camp, so I know that's something to keep in mind, that there's plenty of easy parking to get into the building.
Right now,
Let's just start yelling.
Yeah. This parking exists now, and I don't think there's any intention of taking that away, right? We simply didn't render it. Yeah. Anyway, I think that, to Joey's point, is you do have a number of spaces here. I mean, this will probably result in 12 to 15 spaces, and then another 12 to 15 here, and then on the backside as well. So I think that would need to be dedicated to accessible
And
parking.
then the proximity issue aside, the current plan is that we're actually over parking for the building. So with all of this new inventory that would come into play, so.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to have too much parking.
Okay.
It seems like, I don't know, but.
So I know we're not choosing 1, 2, or 3. So are we supposed to tell you which elements of this one we like?
Yeah, it's about the merits. I would also maybe offer one more thing is that, we will now, as we get deeper into schematic design, we will also be working with the staff on understanding the actual workplace environment. So, this diagram is very deliberate in saying that all of the departments, they have a home, they have their own workspaces, but that the opportunities for meeting would potentially involve that they're going to navigate the building to get to this public domain that will have incredible views of E.B. Rains Park, that will allow for staff to work with patrons and customers who come to City Hall in what I would refer to as neutral territory. So you're not bringing people into your office that you perhaps have, ornated with pictures, and it's a very different experience when you meet with clients in sort of neutral ground because they are part of the solution that you're going to come to together. And I think, we kind of prescribe to being able to develop those kinds of environments because they're very powerful in empowering the customers that you're serving. So the scheme is very deliberate in doing that.
Back to the internal examples of this one.
Is this the one with the bridges?
Yeah, that one right there. This is
cool.
Yeah, and you can see that in both of these images, on the right-hand side are the open workplace environments. If you notice, there aren't any offices in there, right? There are offices in this building, but you are looking at an open workplace environment, which means that there's a lot of natural light coming in. And when their customers come to visit, they don't enter that part of the photo. They are always in this left-hand side, right? And they engage this interior landscape as a way of getting into those environments, and that's where customers are met. And so it's a very clear diagram, but it's a really powerful one. And the space in between, notice, is bringing in natural light, so you're almost feeling like you're outdoors.
Building doesn't show any photovoltaics out there. It looks like it's 100% clear.
Well, it's clear between these wings. They have PVs in where there is actually solid roof. So like directly over the right-hand side, they have PVs, and directly over on the left-hand side, they do, so.
So I know we're not there. Hello, I don't know if this matters. But would we put like the clerk's office on the first floor, like where we get the most public traffic?
It's probably true. It's probably true. Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering.
It's a logical move to do that.
Okay.
Because that's arguably your largest inventory of clients who are coming in, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking for staff, would you want a completely open working place?
Well, the program is not doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
the program has a mix of different office environments. So there are enclosed offices and then there are open workstation environments. So there's a medley.
Okay.
It's not one or the other, it's
Okay.
both. It's all of the above.
Well, elements-wise, I really like the internal landscaping piece with your overall design. Whatever you said at the beginning, one of your top 10 bulleted, like integrating and accessing, activating again, the park, pulling it inside, I think is genius. Beautiful.
Well, I also like the idea that this one maybe is, sort of gives us more flexibility with budget. You know, it being sort of.
It does because we've given they're like different layers and pieces to the puzzle that would allow us to work the budget in certain ways, right? I mean, as an example, if we're gonna fold down this canopy along the western side, it gives us the opportunity of building this wall economically since you're not really looking at it and since it's protected. So, you know, we can certainly do that. There's also an idea that if as we continue in the design process, these community rooms really are something that we want to make special so that they're attractive to the citizens of Northland to use, we may make a decision on investing a little bit more in how they are articulated, right? And maybe work on another piece of these to be able to find those monies to do that. So there is something about the organization of this diagram that will lend itself to managing the budget a little bit easier.
Yeah, I'm just, I sat in on the Anything Library meeting last week, and they were talking about their new library they're building, their major library, and they are already talking about making it smaller because of costs. So it's something we might, kind of want to keep in mind, that it seems to be going up rather than stabilizing or.
And I noticed that there are no contractors here. They like squares.
Yeah. I thought about that.
This makes it not square.
Yeah,
Right?
that one I think probably makes them nervous. One thing I did.
Worked in a building that was like the previous slide in Minnesota. And the difference was is that we had plate glass. We had glass just clear from those work areas. So you could see in them, but you couldn't, it wasn't open. And it was awesome. I really liked how I felt. You know, it made me feel very comfortable. I could see everything that was going on. It didn't bother me that someone coming in the building could see me too, because I was working. But I really do like this a lot. A lot.
Yeah, this was probably my favorite iteration just because I loved the bridges when I was here during the architecture camp. I
You started
loved-
building some.
Yeah, I started trying
Yours
to
were a little
terribly.
robust.
Mine got out of control, but I really loved just the interior and those bridges that you could walk from one place to another, and having like the open atrium in the middle, I think, gave it that really nice feel. And then the outside spaces that people can use too. Yeah, I'm a fan of this one. And then added control cost is great.
Yeah, the outside space is really great. That's got the most, I think, of all three.
So
Well, and I took some time today to pay attention to those trees. They are beautiful, and it would be lovely if we could keep them.
I want to say bosque because in Spanish it means the same thing, like trees, forest. Yeah.
Nice.
yeah, we'll let somebody else feel it.
It's lovely. Yeah, down the road. That looks like breakfast to me. It's like butter and eggs.
Hungry?
Yeah. That's all
Go to,
I got.
let's go to another view.
I think that sketch was done when we had no legs. That's
Yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, we are very sympathetic to the notion of the council chambers kind of being out there. And so
Yeah.
this clearly is suggesting that maybe it should be inboard and really engage more of this outdoor environment that you're beginning to create with the Civic Center. It's protected from the road. It has a strong relationship with the memorial. And I think it has the potential of having a strong relationship with that festival lawn if if there is a strategy that we are interested in pursuing of allowing for the council chambers to also be a third community room.
Is there a way to do this one but not oval? Like, can you do the same thing but in
Yeah,
squares?
I would say, yeah, I mean,
Or rectangles.
we were being provocative just because we're at that stage of the project where we
It's
need
fun.
to be.
Right, right.
And, but the diagram is not contingent on having curves.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's a part of me that really does like the dramatic, shape and everything, but
Right.
then there's another part of me that goes, so well, people say like the rec center, old rec center is just so like dated looking because it's such an unusual shape, and have concerns that, in 10 or 20 years, people will look at that and go, oh, that's so old fashioned or something. I don't know.
It is provocative is the word.
Yeah.
Elements that I love, this is City Hall, right? Or
Yes.
city, or
This
council
is the council
chambers.
chambers.
I
Yeah.
really like that,
Mhm.
but I also like this
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
right to the memorial. I thought that was really a beautiful piece.
Yeah, because I was imagining, maybe in one of your pictures, the landscaping could kind of echo that a little bit, so
Well-
that part I do like.
I
You
did
built-
that too,
You
yeah.
built that.
Yeah.
I did.
And I know that Jay for a long time has been
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
mimicking, what already is in place. And so this was a way of doing that. And certainly that can be reinforced with the kind of landscaping that we begin to develop in that zone. right?
And these are like skylights, is that what the?
Those are the cores, right? So within that zone are stairs, little support spaces, and the intent is that we would be able to bring natural light.
So you wouldn't have the photovoltaic over those?
No, but that's right now. If we chose to do it not as a skylight, but as clear story,
Mhm.
then you could put PV on it, right? So we'll just continue to model that and see what makes sense, so.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind the shape if it wasn't extra cost and if it didn't stress out the contractor, because I think it might just be a unique building that's,
Mhm.
called out by whatever, and maybe it'll last.
Like the spaceship house.
Yes,
Complex-
right?
It's less complex than an
The
eagle,
super
I'll
house.
tell you that.
Yeah, less
Oh.
complex than an eagle. But what would we
Eagle is
call it?
cool.
I'm gonna be stuck with eggs and butter, so that's the problem. But it
Years, this
A
could
butterfly
be
or something.
Oh,
historical building. So we could actually be leaving a footprint for future generations to declare it an historical building because of its design,
Right,
historical site.
right. Absolutely.
I would like,
think inevitably, maybe it's gonna be less about the shape and more about what is that envelope that we're creating, right?
Well, but I started writing down words that you were using. You had like sensual and elegant and graceful, and that's all amazing. And that's all of those things, I think, is what we're looking for, so.
level 1 kind of looks like an awesome shoe instead of,
Yeah,
It's true, it's
on the
true.
side.
And then, I mean, we haven't spent a lot of time talking about this, but, a future expansion to this, and if we are in fact pursuing Living Building Challenge and getting core, this might end up being another pedal, if you will, to this, that would sit along here.
I had to step away for just a minute, so I apologize if you address this or not. But the slide that you had shown that we could see that had the solar panels that look like that extended over the building,
Yeah,
if
that's
we
what-
do it, if we do an atrium, would we risk having to do something like that? Keep going.
It's this one.
Whoa, it's not synced up.
Yeah, Joanna's controlling.
Oh,
one,
sorry,
so-
it's because I was watching it and. Sorry, you go.
Well, that was
No,
this
she
one.
has a different one. She's trying to catch up.
Yeah.
It's a race.
What is the question? Sorry?
There was a slide in here, right here. Now this has the solar panels basically over the top of the building,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And forward. If we were to do, because we're going to do the solar panels anyhow, is that going to limit what we can do on the top? Like have the sun coming through and the atrium and all that good stuff?
Well, no, if anything, it would support the idea of allowing natural light to come into the building without the heat gain of the sun coming in.
Okay. I'm
That
not
make
a builder.
sense?
Yeah, it really does. I just don't want it to extend over my building, okay?
Oh, so Becky, are you saying you don't like these, how it extends over?
Right.
I'm with Becky on that.
But if it's necessary, what do we do?
It wouldn't exactly look like, I mean, I don't know.
I would really like to be able to tuck it into onto the roof somehow without having, I mean, honestly, this kind of looks, there's, I think it kind of looks trashy hanging it over. It looks like it's an added on piece.
Yeah.
Part of the building.
Reminds
It's
me
like,
of my garage.
oh, wait, we gotta add the stuff in, let's throw this shelf up here.
Like an add-on.
Well, except that if it's a cover for like patio, then it's like a roof for the patio.
Well, I think, so if that's what we're saying, then do we need a building that's bigger?
Yeah.
Well, are these all about the same square footage and size? Is that-
Yeah, in terms of the gross,
Yeah.
right, I mean, the floor plates vary in size, and, you know, this one, you know, you notice that since the footprint got bigger, we didn't have to add 3 stories here, right? We could keep this one at 2, and then that one stayed up at 3. I mean, I guess another thing to talk about with that is that the presence of the building off Community Center Drive. So this one does clearly
I'm here.
makes it pretty sounding clear, right? It takes a really powerful kind of gesture out to that intersection.
I do like the council chambers kind of being off by itself, like that. I really like that design right there.
Yeah.
It's off by itself, but you said it'll still connect.
Yes, yeah.
I do like that. I wonder what a rectangular version, although if you can pull it off, that, I think it's very
This is
cool.
really nice.
Yeah, and again, the diagram is not reliant on the curves, and it may be that we end up finding a sweet spot where not everything has, you know, a radius to it, right? And maybe there are moments where we have long stretches of flat wall, and maybe it's the corners that we begin to focus on. So,
You guys want to put the other one in there?
Sure.
I think we have about 6 minutes to wrap up.
Yes, I mean, this is the one I'm most excited about too. Ascending building.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Me too.
Ascending.
I'm like,
Because
okay.
I do like some of the external components of this the most. First, I want to highlight what you guys call the sawtooth, but I refer to as the ridge line. On top, we can activate the PVs with that and using the natural light in there, which can create a lot of like what everybody's liking, but also creating a cool design that will imitate our mountains into the west. So I think it would make it more of an iconic building. I also really enjoy, like on the city council chambers, how I'd be projecting north. I like that idea too. I just think that it would look, you know, dynamic, sharp. It'll have that same kind of look like we have over at, you know, what's that? Colorado Convention Center and things like that, and Art Museum have that kind of triangle, which I'm a big fan of. And I think that it makes sense that it'd be more stacked. I mean, even though it's less artistic than the one that we have here, I think that it makes sense for a municipal building. And also, well, I think that it combines a lot of things that we like here. We might be able to work some of those together, but I don't think I like city council here.
This one?
No, this one, but I know that we could bring it up over there
Yeah.
too.
right.
So that's, if we do like that one, I do like it better over there, but are we gonna be able to do the same kind of bridge look right here? Or is that just because we're using the blocks? It's not.
No, it looks like it's there.
Yeah, there's a.
Okay, then is it, okay.
I mean, I'm thinking facing north, you have windows or something here, and then you'll see the memorial,
Yeah,
Veterans Memorial there. That's, I like that idea.
and it'll be pointing, to have that design like points at it too, which is cool, and I think that looking at it as like a compass, that was one big idea that I had, was like Northglenn, true north. I thought that was more significant in the design.
And I think it's pretty dramatic with the, you know, the stacks and, and the shape. It's just not as, I don't know, futuristic looking one or something, I'm not sure.
The problem I have is I spent 4 days in Chicago at a conference navigating a building just like that, and I was miserable. the inside of it, it wasn't elegant. It wasn't sensual at all. It was very rigid and it was very vertical. And it had those activated stairs. It had all the things, and it was, I don't know, I think it's like Chicago something of the arts. It was supposed to be a beautiful building, but it was not easy to navigate and it didn't feel welcoming at all. And so that's why this one doesn't appeal to me at all. I mean, I think the design elements of having that space and having council chambers, I think it is kind of cool off to the angle, but I don't know. Internally, I just was like, oh, it was just a lot.
Well, was that a bigger building than this one is gonna be? I just
No,
wondered.
it was about the same size. I mean, it looked a lot like, I don't know, it wasn't
I think
easy
you're kind
or
of strung out.
soft. Yeah.
This is Ashley. I agree with what you're saying, Meredith. I really like the openness of the first two designs versus this one. This one just seems too closed to me, too closed off. I don't know. I agree with everything that everyone's been saying, and I don't really have anything to disagree with, but I just wanted to mention that I really prefer openness. I like I don't know, being more than one path to get around as opposed to this iteration where there's just one way around, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I agree with that. Most of what I like about it is just the exterior, just the top of the roof, and then just like the projecting out. That's,
Spiky
but
roof.
yeah, like,
So maybe, go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's not to say we couldn't do that, but maybe we square this one off and then have some skylights, kind of have that, what do you call it, ridge line?
yeah, that's what I call
Yeah, or
it.
sawtooth up there. It doesn't mean we couldn't do it with some of these too. I mean,
Yeah, and really, like, if this, either the windows were here or somehow it was oriented a little more towards the Veterans Memorial, that would work.
Some
Or
combination
just
of one
that
and
and-
two.
That's true.
Yeah, or just
If it's
add-
over here on this one, it would be facing that way, right?
Yeah, just-
So maybe a couple of things to just kind of get some feedback on.
Well, and definitely take staff's feedback too.
Sure,
Absolutely. I
Sure.
mean, we're here and we are passionate about it. However, many of them will outlive us.
Well, and they spend way more hours a day.
Yeah, they have to work there.
I guess presence of the building.
Mhm.
Is there an initial visceral reaction that council members have about whether the building is kind of front and center when you're coming to this intersection? Because these two clearly are doing that.
Mhm.
I think that's cool. As long as
Right.
council chambers isn't
And-
right on that corner.
Understood,
Could be
Yeah.
community
understood.
members.
And then, here, it was making a lighter touch by saying, put the community rooms out there so that they're visible, right? But they are lower scale,
Yeah.
right?
Those I think are more appealing.
Yeah, it does have more of a presence when you're
And-
driving
and-
by on the street.
And then maybe building on that narrative, this was probably not going to fly as council chambers because it's just too exposed. But if we internalize it to the site like we've done here
And
and
if even
here,
lower, yeah.
it sounds like that move makes the idea of the council chambers being an expressive part of the building.
As opposed to internal,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think
Yes.
why we're asking that is that you could see the ideas around this in the
Uh-huh.
interior quality that we really like being combined with maybe the
Uh-huh.
site activation qualities of
Yeah.
that, right? And I think with that,
That would be great.
It's-
That's great.
Yeah, the interior combination.
yeah.
It's so exciting.
This
Yeah.
is,
Thank you so much for your work. I mean, you put in a lot of time and
A lot of
it's-
time and work. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I would have really preferred if we could have had the color highlighter drawn on the boxes again, and then I could follow it.
This is great.
I think it looks really nice.
Thank you all.
Cool.
thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
great work.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, and just a reminder, they'll be back on the 23rd of May with some final kind of closing thoughts for SD design and then moving into DD, design development. So
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I learned so much
Thank you.
during these sessions. Thank you.
Okay, so
Nice
you'll watch. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate that. Oh, yeah.
I will now call to order the regular city council meeting of April 25th, 2022. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access to the meeting is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Meetings are broadcast on Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford is absent. Councilmember Whitkovich is also absent. Councilmember Hadamio.
Here.
Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa. Here. Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to citizen inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, we have 3 proclamations today, and we have some guests with us. So, council, if you'd like to join me down front.
So if you want to go agenda order, yep, it's that end.
Okay, the first one is the National Day of Prayer coming up on May 5th. So, would you like to join me? I think we have some guests. Pastor Kim Scadam. Hi, come on up. Come on up. Pastor Scadam, I have met. What is your name?
Deacon Jerome Durnford. Hi, nice to meet you.
Okay, Deacon Jerome Durnford. Do we have anyone else? Okay, we may have had a third, but we don't today. Okay. Here we go. Whereas in 1952, the United States Congress approved a joint resolution setting aside a day each year for prayer across our nation. And whereas National Day of Prayer is not restricted to any one religion, and a prayer can come in many forms, including thoughtful reflection or meditation in an effort to find solace, guidance, and grounding in times of struggle. And whereas prayer is also used to express love, joy, gratitude, and to ask for wisdom and strength in our daily lives. And whereas the National Day of Prayer provides an opportunity to pray for our nation, its people, and its leaders while honoring the commitment to religious liberty. And whereas, as Americans, we celebrate our constitutional right that we can exercise our convictions freely, no matter our faith or beliefs, and practice individual prayer, reflection, and meditation to find sanctuary and reflect on the things that unite us in humanity and service. And whereas we acknowledge the contributions of diverse religious communities to our state's vibrant cultural heritage and appreciate the important role of prayer in our collective pursuit of a brighter tomorrow. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 5th, 2022, as a National Day of Prayer in the City of Northglenn, and encourage every resident of this community to give thanks for the freedom that allows us to choose and practice our faith as we see fit, and to ask for continued guidance, compassion, and protection for all. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 25th day of April, 2022. So I'm very thankful that our guests are here, so I'm going to give you each a moment. So if you want to start.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. It's a thrill to be here with all of you, and it's a blessing. You know, life is a blessing, and everything that we have in our life, we should always be grateful for, and gratitude is the best way to praise the Lord. And so thank you for this opportunity. I'm from Immaculate Heart of Mary, so we have many citizens of Northland that attend our parish, And it's a beautiful day to be here with all of you, so thank you very much. Okay, you're welcome.
I would just echo those words. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to recognize this day of prayer and the opportunity for us to be a part of it and receiving these proclamations. That's very important and very valuable to us, and we appreciate it. And I believe I can speak for my friend that we pray for you as leaders of this city and know your job is not easy, particularly those of you here and in the offices that you keep. So we appreciate that very much, and I too agree. Gratitude is a big part of starting every day, so thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Good to see you. So there's one for you. Now we'll take a photo.
Okay.
I'm the one that subjects everybody to the photos. Mayor, can we just put you in the middle? Yeah, and then we have each one on the end. That's perfect. Great.
Very good.
Great. Big hand in the background already. 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Last one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Thanks for your service. Thank you for your service. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, our next one is National Poppy Day. Skeeter Wilson from the American Legion Auxiliary Post 22 will accept. Good to see you. Come on up. Look at your beautiful scarf. Woo, I love it. All right, here we go. Hello.
This is Marlene Bobo. She's my sergeant at arms.
All right, Marlene, nice to see you. These scarves are gorgeous. Okay. Whereas in the spring of 1919, amidst complete devastation in Europe, poppies bloomed in abundance on the fields where service members had fallen in battle. And whereas after World War I, the American Legion and American Legion Auxiliary adopted the poppy as a symbol of freedom and the blood sacrificed by troops in wartime. And whereas the American Legion Auxiliary Poppy Program benefits service members and their families by providing funding devoted to Veterans Affairs and rehabilitation work. And whereas poppies are worn and displayed as a symbolic tribute to all veterans and current service members and in patriotic support of future military personnel. And whereas the poem In Flanders Fields also inspires the use of the poppy, which movingly begins, "In Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses row on row," referring to the poppies that sprang up in the churned earth of battlefields across western Belgium and northern France, where soldiers died fighting. And whereas the poppy is an emblem of faith and continues to serve as a tribute to those who have given their lives for the nation's freedom. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim Friday, May 27th, 2022, as National Poppy Day in the City of Northglenn and encourage all residents to join in observing this day to honor every service member who has died in the name of liberty, freedom, and democracy, while also showing their support for living veterans, service members, and their families. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 25th day of April, 2022. So thank you for being here, and we'd love it if you could add to this.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this. Just so that you know, we don't sell the poppies. It's a donation only. So if you put a quarter in the bin or you put a $20 bill in the bin, it doesn't make any difference. They're not for sale. It's donation only, and 100% of the proceeds go to rehab for veterans and their families. We can't use the money to make our building beautiful, rehab our building. So it's strictly 100%. And we give out 25 million poppies a year, and we raise $2 million a year for this effort across the United States. So we really appreciate the City of Northglenn for making this a special day. And when you see us all out there, just throw the dollars at us.
We're easy.
Can we have a copy we'd like to?
Oh.
Meredith, last year we couldn't find many poppies. Can you ask where we can find them this year?
Oh, well, we're trying to contact businesses that we can go, stand in front of, where we've contacted 104th and Washington King Soopers. They're gonna get back to us. We're contacting King Soopers at 120th in Colorado. We'll probably also contact Lowe's and Home Depot in Northland. So those are kind of the businesses that have supported veterans in the past. And we are going to, Thornton is doing a festival on June 4th down at Carpenter Field, a Thorn Fest, I think it's called, and we're going to have a tent there, and we will have poppies there also, so if you happen to attend that, we'll have poppies there available too.
And that will be also for the riders, the sons, everybody at the post will be there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, somebody had asked us about that, and I was looking that up online, and yes, we can have some, if we're allowed to have somebody there that. Okay. Okay. This is for you. Thank you very much.
Apparently there's competition, so we have somebody else to wait first.
Do you see Diana with two phones? Thank you.
You want to check the photos, Diane?
Yeah, let's make sure it's not a picture of the floor.
Okay.
No heads.
Ready, 1, 2, 3, again. Got it, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody knows of that? If you need assistance, please get in touch with us at the post, because we have Mark Potter, he's in charge of
Veterans Affairs.
There you go. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the third one tonight is National Small Business Week. Come on up. Jeff, can you pronounce your last name for me?
Althouse.
Althouse. Excellent. Althouse law. Let's do it. Whereas America's strongest economic growth in almost 40 years has been driven by the resilience of our small businesses, who, despite a worldwide pandemic, continue to pioneer innovative solutions to our country's greatest challenges and create opportunities for families and workers. And whereas from the storefront shops to the high-tech startups that keep America on the cutting edge, small businesses are the backbone of Northglenn's economy and the foundation of our nation's promise. And whereas when we support small businesses, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture. And whereas because this country's 32.5 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in our economy, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur economic growth without discussing ways to support local entrepreneurs. And whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed National Small Business Week every year since 1963 to highlight the programs and services available through the U.S. Small Business Administration and other government agencies. And whereas the City of Northglenn supports and joins in this national effort to help America's small businesses do what they do best, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our local communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim May 1st through 7th, 2022 as National Small Business Week in the City of Northglenn and encourage the community to join together in thanking small businesses for their many contributions to the quality of life in our community and the economic well-being of our city. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 25th day of April, 2022. And we are so happy to have you. Do you want to add anything?
Oh, sure. Well, first off, Mayor Leidy, thank you for having me. Thank you, City Council. It's an honor to be here. It's not often that people want to get stuck in a room with a lawyer, so I appreciate that. No, but in all seriousness, it's been amazing having a small business in Northglenn. I started my firm in 2016 in a 300 square foot room with no windows, and have grown it to over 4,500 square feet with 4 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and on the new employment, we're trying to hire 3 more people in the next 3 months, and opening new locations across the state. So all that started in Northglenn. We're keeping our flagship and headquarters in Northglenn because we love it so much. We wouldn't be here without the work you guys do, so thank you very much. I really mean that. The Small Business Appreciation event you guys do is huge. We love competing with everyone. It's good fun. Just the cooperation you guys have with local organizations, like my shameless plug for Rotary, because I happen to be a Rotarian, and honestly wouldn't be here without their work, and specifically Miss Debbie over there that you can blame for me being here. But it's just been amazing, the support. I know a lot of people who had a lot of businesses that didn't make it through COVID, and a lot of them weren't in Northglenn because you guys helped a lot. There were a ton of resources, and other cities, people had to figure out what to do, and you guys are just on top of it. It's sending out where you could go for PPP loans and just how to figure things out, and it was an amazing help, and I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you. Take a photo.
Oh, sure. Oh, poppy seeds. I sell them outside my business anytime you want. Where do you want?
All right, ready? 2, 3. And take a view. Nobody blinks. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Congratulations on this business. Thank you.
He does estate planning.
I believe so. Yeah.
I did. I just
Yeah.
I never heard of him.
Yeah. He's really been active. Like, they do some stores too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, great volunteers.
Okay. We have moved into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, has anyone signed up to speak to council?
I don't have anyone who signed up in advance, no.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who didn't get a chance to sign up and would like to speak? Nope. Okay. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council? You may press *6 to unmute at this time. Okay. Hearing none, we will move into communications. We will start with Ward 1, Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick update. The Legislative Committee met tonight as the legislative session is coming to a close. Some good things on some bills we supported. House Bill 1326, the fentanyl bill, passed with some of the amendments that we asked for stronger penalties. That is on its way to the Senate right now. There's no new Cora bill this year, so that there may be something next year, but that fizzled out. The House Bill 1362, which was the building codes that we took a monitor position on where there was a mandate. CML is also looking to add amendments to that, but we are still in a monitor phase for that. We did take another monitor position on Bill 1363, the special districts. And then also on House Bill 1378, the Denver Metro Regional, the campus grant for, it's basically the acknowledgement that homeless is a statewide problem, not just a local problem. We are in full support of this. And it's, like I said, it helps us tackle it as a state issue with grant money and not just leaving it to patchwork individual cities. And that is the conclusion of my update.
All right, Councilmember Brown.
Well, I had an exciting week. Week before last, I believe I had Neuro, which was real exciting, talking about the marketplace and things that are coming and all the excitement around it. I also attended the Painted Tree ribbon cutting this weekend, and it was that place. I cannot not tell you how enthusiastic I am for it. It was my first time in there, and lucky for us, the manager was a little delayed and real busy and yada yada yada. So I had time to look around before, and I had time to look around after. I love the checkout process where you can just go through the checkout and then they disperse the funds. You don't have to pay at each individual store. I was just so impressed. I actually spoke to a couple there who were vendors, and they got their wedding flowers, their DJ, their photo booth, and their caterer all in one place. It was really great. I apologize if you can hear Cambria. I'll get her quiet in a minute. The other thing was that we had our Ward 2 meeting last Wednesday. It was very well attended, and I'd like to thank Diana again for getting the word out so well that we actually had people there. I mean, it was fantastic, and the safety presentation by Deputy Chief Darlin was very well received, and lots of invigoration. I'm going to mute myself now. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Councilmember Jaramillo.
Yes, thank you. So Tuesday, we had the architect camp with architects building the new rec center. Wednesday, we had the Ward 2 meeting, as Becky brought up, and that was my first ward meeting, and went really well, and it was good to see a great turnout, as Becky mentioned. And then on Thursday, we've voted in appointed our new CCPP board member, and her name is Beth, and she's here today. So I want to thank you for being here and stepping up in your new position with the city. And we're excited to have you here and representing our city. And also on Friday, we had a ribbon cutting for an opening of the Urban Indian Market on Malley in Washington, and got to meet the family, and I got to try some desserts from there, and it was really nice, and I hope they do really well in business. That was my last week.
Great. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see. Well, I have to go back a little ways because what's on my agenda here was attending a STEM problem-based learning presentation at Northglenn High School, and it was their theme was diversity and how to encourage more diverse participation and things at the high school. It was very interesting. So if you ever get a chance to do one of those, that was great. Let's see. And then on April 20th, the Rangeview Library District met. That's the Anything Library. And let's see, there were a lot of things that we heard about, but I'll just highlight a couple of them. We got to see a presentation, kind of like what we did earlier today on our City Hall, but it was for their nature library that they're building at the Ayler Open Space Park at 136th and Quebec. And let's see, they discussed the intergovernmental agreement with Thornton to move forward on that. They also have a project or a vision statement, and that they're working some projects on equity and anti-racism with they're working with the Urban Library Council, and they had listening sessions with their staff, and then they're going to actually write a new vision statement. They're looking to hire a nature library manager, and I guess they're also, this one I did want to point out that, because we've done some similar with our code enforcement, that they are updating their employee manual, and one of the big changes was to move to gender-neutral pronouns. So then, let's see, CC4CA met on April 22nd, and a couple of the new bills that we discussed at that meeting. One was House Bill 1218, which was Resource Efficiency Buildings Electric Vehicles, and also Senate Bill 206, which is Disaster Preparedness and Recovery Resources. And that one, everybody was really in support of, because that's to help people rebuild to safer code standards after disasters such as the Marshall Fire. And so CC4CA decided to actively support that one. And then I attended the ribbon cuttings. Andre and Lana's Market was one of them that I attended, and then, which is a European market, and then the Urban Indian Grocery and the Painted Tree was on Saturday, and also the Architect Camp. One other thing I just wanted to share out with City Council is that I was contacted by I guess the regional manager for waste management, and if anyone's interested in a tour, they do offer tours, and we can kind of pick the day we want, but the best time to do it is between their shifts, which is about 2:30 a.m. So if any of us are interested, let me know, and I can be happy to coordinate that, and we can pick a day and go see how things get recycled or don't. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Lukman-Hiramasa. Not enough of us here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few things in the last couple of weeks. I attended the CCPP, the Community Co-Production Policing Advisory Board meeting on April 12th. And right now they're looking at kind of ramping up their community relationship. So they'll be planning on attending city events and getting support materials for what they need to do that. So in other words, swag to give out and to be able to interact with our community. A couple of the board members attended some of the ward meetings, including Ward 4 and I think Ward 1. I'm not sure if any were able to attend Ward 2. But that's been great for them to get out and interact with the community as well. On April 18th, I attended the Northland Senior Organization meeting, and they are pretty much working on a lot of events, upcoming events and activities such as their luncheons, increasing membership, and things of that nature. They are also looking at amending their bylaws to be more secular, so non-religious language. On April 19th, I attended the Architect Camp, which was really fun, and I learned that I'm really not good at putting blocks together in different shapes. They look like transformers. But that was a lot of fun, and I felt like I learned a lot in terms of how that process happens and how that goes. I also attended the Youth Commission board meeting in conjunction with the DICE board meeting. The Youth Commission, they have two things that they're really working on for the upcoming year, and that is homelessness is one of their priorities, and then also diversity and balance of power and whatnot. So they had Ashley, the executive director of Access Housing, come and do a presentation, and then they also met with the DICE board to just communicate what they would like to be a part of and what that's going to look like. A lot of volunteer work and helping out at different DICE events, for example. On April 23rd, Saturday, I attended the Painted Tree grand opening and ribbon cutting, and as Councilmember Brown mentioned, it was really great to interact with a lot of the vendors. I got to meet some of them, and of course, I left with some merchandise as well. That's the second time I visited, and it's just a great opportunity for local entrepreneurs to really showcase their items. And then the last thing, I would just like to remind Ward 4 residents that this coming Wednesday, April 27th, there is a No Need for Speed meeting at the Rec Center at 5:30, and this is the second meeting regarding speeding on quips. And that is all I think.
Thank you. Okay, so a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. On the 16th, I hosted a mingle with the mayor. It was well attended, a lot of really good questions. Thank you to Chief May and Deputy Chief Darlin, for being there and answering all of the questions. You both did an excellent job. A lot of questions from our community. The same day, I threw the first pitch out for the North Metro Little League. They are celebrating their 60th year this year, which is a big deal. The organization is fantastic. It's all volunteer-based, and so helping them kick off their season was an honor. It was also very sweet because they, after a really formal presentation and kickoff, then they all went and participated in an Easter egg hunt, which I thought was awesome because it just helped all the kids have a great time. So that was great. With Councilmember Witkovich and some staff, I attended the Adams County Mayors and Commissioners Youth Awards dinner that Adams County hosted. And it was just important to note that Northglenn had the most award recipients than any other city in Adams County. The stories, once again, were amazing and touching, and all of these young people are poised for greatness. It was just lovely to meet them all. On the 15th, I did attend, on behalf of Northglenn, the funeral for Tom Robinson. We partner significantly with the Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Company. And so I know, I did speak with the family. They were very happy and grateful for the well wishes from the city. I attended the Mile High Flood District Board meeting. And this Saturday is the fishing derby. So please come out to E.B. Raines Junior Memorial Park because we will be out there fishing and having a great time. And that is all I have. City Clerk Small, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight.
Okay. City Manager Guyer?
I also have nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. City Attorney Hoff?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I do actually have one item tonight, and it's more of a preview of coming attractions. And I'm glad that the judge and the court supervisor are here this evening because you will be getting shortly an ordinance brought to you on the city's harassment ordinance because the Colorado Supreme Court recently invalidated a portion of the state law on cyberbullying, and the city has a companion ordinance locally, and so we have to change that to comply with Colorado Supreme Court rulings. So you will see that shortly. And that's all I've got tonight.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving into the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Mayor, I motion to remove item D, the revised employee handbook, from the consent agenda for further debate and possible amendment.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay. So we remove that, and then do we need a new motion to approve it without it?
I think the motion was just to remove that, so the motion would be just on the removal, and then you'd move for the consent agenda as amended.
We need to vote on the removal.
Correct.
Fantastic. Please open the vote.
It'll be just a second here.
That's okay.
Okay, that vote is open now.
Joanna, I'm a yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank
You're
you,
okay.
Councilmember Brown. Okay, I will close that vote, and the motion to remove CR 81 from the consent agenda passes unanimously.
So moving forward, we're going to motion to approve the consent without it. But then does that put CR 81 in?
CR 81 would then be under item number 10.
Thank you. Yes, I would. Perfect. Okay, so is there a motion to approve now?
Motion to approve the amended consent agenda?
Second.
Please vote.
Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Great. So yes, agenda number 10. Thank you, Corey. So we were talking about CR 81. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution adopting employee guidelines for the city of Northland, Colorado.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second. Okay, so now for discussion, Councilmember Walker, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to start off by saying 99% of the revisions look great. I really like the direction that staff took on it. And I definitely want to make sure we have support for the Juneteenth holiday. But the one thing that I wanted to bring up was which I approved the idea overall, was the 2 staff volunteer days, which I think is a great idea. There are a lot of companies. My company has it. But the way it's currently written right now, and excuse me for being very frank, it looks like a 2-day vacation with no There is no accountability with it. There is no any approved charities. And so I think, there could be some ideas to take. Maybe we all vote on or staff votes on local charities that we can have some accountability with and work with. That's how my company works. There's only certain ones that you can take the week off and do volunteer work for, or require some kind of documentation maybe from the charity or place that they work at saying, yes, this person actually did come work with me. That way, it still keeps open the idea of maybe they don't want to volunteer in Northland. Maybe they want to go back to their small town and do it there. But I believe there needs to be some kind of accountability instead of just being a 2-day carte blanche and hope it got. That's where I stand.
Okay. Councilmember Brown, did you want to add?
I did want to add, I want to echo Councilmember Walker's comment about Juneteenth. I have absolutely no problem with Juneteenth at all. I think that needs to move forward. My problem actually lies, it's not a problem. I don't think that it's a good decision on the part of council to introduce 2 of the volunteer days in the same year. I think we should introduce 1 year first, monitor it, gather statistics, find out how much it's being used. In my opinion, there's a large cost to it. I know overall it's reflective to the budget. It's not, but I think that as we've seen in previous presentations and previous meetings, there are things that are going to be introduced into this year's budget that are for staffing and things like that. So I'd like to see them come in incremental, 1 this year and 1 next year. And if honestly, yes, 1 this year, 1 next year. And my thoughts behind that are strictly related to new positions that we are looking at hiring and the addition of the additional salary for those employees if we choose to approve them in the budget process. I know that we do have a really large reserve, right? But I think that we have to start being careful with our reserve. I had about 6 months there when I was rah, let's spend it. And now I'm going back on that because I don't know where the economy is going. I watch the stock market. You guys all know I love numbers. I want to be cautious. I want staff to understand that I know that these are very valuable days and everybody we have committed and volunteered and everything with no extra compensation. And for that, I thank you. But I think that it's fair to our residents to bring them in incrementally.
So I hear 2 different ideas. So I'm wondering, is this, I guess it's a question for Corey, is this something where we can discuss and approve as amended, or do we need to send it back and have it come back in its new form?
It is entirely council's prerogative. Someone could make a motion, and then there could be a motion to amend the main motion,
Okay.
depending on what the preference is, but there's no need to send it back if there's a consensus tonight.
Thank you. Because I did hear 2 different things. So Councilmember Brown is dropping it to 1 day, which I actually do support because it might be nice to see how much participation there is. But I also like Councilmember Walker's idea of having more parameters and tightening up the expectations a little bit. So I'd like to hear from other council members to see what you want to do.
Well, I just would say that Juneteenth is not a problem. I'm glad to see that in there. And I just had some questions. I thought it would be worth discussing the volunteer thing. I think it's a good idea. I like the idea of being able to allow our employees to do that. I don't know, if we've had, if anyone's looked into like how other municipalities do it or how many, of their staff take advantage of it. So, I mean, I'm undecided about that. I guess I don't have a real strong feeling one way or the other because I think it's a valuable thing to do. Sounds like there might be some fine tuning that needs to be done. But I'm okay with, I would go with whatever the majority agrees with on that one.
Do you have a couple of questions?
No, that was it. The questions were like whether or not it needs to be refined or like more specifications about how people report what they did or whatever if they have to, that kind of thing.
Councilmember Jaramillo, do you want to?
As everybody else here, I do support Juneteenth. I do understand that that having the 2 days would deal a lot with our budget, and I do lean on my colleague Becky Brown for that too, her insight on that, and I mean I'd like to see also what Councilmember Goff mentioned was seeing what other municipalities are doing, instead of, just making a decision on, saying yes or no to it. I want to be able to see what has worked and which direction we go. And I didn't expect this, but I'm glad you bring it up. That's good. We'll pass it to another, see what else we can do, what else is possible. I don't know how to really put that. I don't know how you.
Okay. Councilmember Lukeman Hiramas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel like we could do possibly maybe some combination of what Councilmember Brown suggested and what Councilmember Walker suggested. Maybe start with the 1 day. I actually agree with that as well. Juneteenth for sure, I'm 100% behind that. But getting back to that, so I think 1 day is definitely a good way to look at it, but I also like the idea of, if anything, just to see where those hours are going, where those volunteer hours are going. A lot of organizations actually use that as well to help them, funding and different things like that. So I would be in support of kind of a combination of the two. Maybe start with 1 a year and see how that goes, and then also at least tracking the hours in terms of, if it's being used and where are they volunteering and how are we helping in that respect. That's my opinion.
Councilmember Brown?
I just wanted to say that that's exactly what I was going to say, Councilmember Lupin Hermosa. A combination of the two. I do believe I understand what Councilmember Walker's saying, and I agree 100% that we need some kind of I'd like to know where we're making a difference, everything that was previously said. So I do think that a combination of the two items is needed. And
go ahead.
No, I just want to, point out to the listeners and to our staff, if they're listening, that we understand, we hear you. We love that you volunteer for other organizations and our city. We just need to research it and then look a little further. But I am for 1 this year.
Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo, I totally support Ms. Becky's, or Councilmember Becky's idea of doing the 1 day and phasing that in. Just to give an example, when we did the Farmers Highline Canal cleanup, I had to sign off on a young children who was helping clean there. So I had all the contact details. They wanted to know he was doing his community service. And so my other one is a question to staff, Ms. Heather. What are the implications? Because now I'm kind of tailing off Councilmember Jaramillo's idea. What are the what happens if we do not approve this tonight? Excuse me. Like, if we don't approve the handbook tonight, how does that throw a wrench in everything you're doing?
It does. So what I would recommend is if council wants to discuss the volunteer program separately, we do that at a future date. However, I'll offer a couple different options for you. I support moving forward with a 1 day if council supports that. I do have reservations about coming up with a list of charities. I think that would be a heavy lift. We do have plans to do more on the administrative side of things following tonight's approval, in terms of really fleshing out what the nuts and bolts look like. I think you have a good draft on page 29 of the packet, but page 21 of the policy that provides the bones of the intent of the policy. Certainly, Tamara and I can speak tonight about what other cities are doing. 16 hours would be on the higher end. However, part of my perspective on that is positioning us to be an employer of choice and really diversifying compensation, medical benefits, all of the other things. Never was this intended to be misused. And certainly the administrative side of things is to ensure that it is not misused. The policy is very explicit that you have to be a staff member in good standing in order to participate in this program. Directors, managers, and supervisors reserve the ability to not approve a request for volunteer time. So certainly if my preference would be if council can move forward with approving the employee manual tonight, amended with an 8-hour provision, or if you're not comfortable with that, then pull the volunteer time out completely, but still approve the employee manual tonight.
So to your point, because I totally understand the intent of that, I think the way you phrased it just now gives me pause, because putting that subjective decision on a director, this is not a policy for the current people, right? Staffing could change. This is the policy that moves forward into the future. So it makes me uncomfortable without more guidelines around it. So can we approve it without that piece? And then you can bring that back as an amendment to the handbook? Is that what I'm hearing?
I can bring back the volunteer piece fully designed with the pieces that you're asking for, and it can be amended out of the employee manual. Sorry, now I'm getting tongue-tied. The employee manual can be amended to include this employee volunteer time off program.
Okay.
I think what I'm inclined to suggest at this point is that we do move forward with this. If people want to do it to 1 day a year and then we can revisit it next year, that's fine. I had kind of the opposite response when I heard Heather explaining this, because I think especially if we do it 1 day and then next year we'll have the numbers coming in on how many hours people spent and where they went, that would give us some idea, maybe we're only going to have 8 people who did it, so or something, we just don't really know. And I think it also gives the directors or whoever are going to be approving this a chance to, it also gives some input that I never heard of this, charity before, and so then I had to go look it up, and that's extra work for me or something, we could get some information back on that. So it sounds to me like that the logistics, if you want to use that word, or like the actual details of the accountability pieces and approval and all that are something that can be worked out. And then I'd be fine with going forward, just approving the 1 day and Juneteenth and the rest of the other changes to the handbook. So that's my suggestion.
Okay. I think we need a motion to go forward. I think I would probably, yeah.
Just one thing for council's consideration in terms of sort of the parameters, whether it's tonight or moving forward. The one thing I would recommend against is actually creating a list.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
Okay, because that was one of the, government has different constraints than private industry does, and so we have to be careful about limiting the content of what folks may want to volunteer for.
Possibly just as long as it's a 501c.
Correct. The breadth of the language in the existing draft policy is based on the fact the city can't really specify as to the content or the type of volunteering, so long as it is truly nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Allowed to track, though?
Absolutely.
As long as they're not being told which.
Certainly. Yeah, it's just the nature of the entity.
So the suggestion on the table is to, if we approve Juneteenth, we approve 1 volunteer day, and then they'll bring back the handbook for approval or an amendment to it that details or tells us what's going on with not the charities that they're doing it, but the tracking, or do we not get involved in that at all, Heather?
Corey's recommending you don't get involved in that staff would not develop a list of charities. We do have the ability to track. I think for simplicity purposes, I'll propose this to council. You move forward with approving the employee manual as proposed tonight, less the volunteer time off program, and I will bring that back to you separately. So not 1 day or the 2 days, just make it part of a motion to remove this piece, and then I'll bring it back with greater information and detail included based on the feedback that I've heard tonight.
That does
Do
make
you
it
have
more
a time frame, a turnaround time? I'm sorry, Meredith, I have my hand up though.
It's okay. I see you.
Do you have a time frame of when we could possibly bring it up again, Heather?
At this point, off the top of my head, I can try to do it before July.
Okay. That would be awesome. That would leave almost 6 months left in the year.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one reservation I have is that we do want to maintain and attract quality employees, and that's why we have this program. We want people to be able to be, happy in the place they work and feel like they're working in a place that really does value the work that they'd be doing at the nonprofit organizations. And I feel just cutting it is doing the direct opposite and giving the wrong, I think the wrong projection of what we want. I think that I would just go maybe just a 1 day and we'll see how it works. And I think that would be a better compromise than saying no to both.
Just to clarify, so we're not cutting it. We're removing it for tonight's vote.
Oh, okay.
So that
That's
staff
what
can.
I understood.
No,
Okay.
no. So that staff can rework it and bring it back to us.
Oh, okay.
No, cutting it is not on the table and it's not being recommended.
Okay.
It's just fleshing it out with more details.
Very good.
Councilmember Walker?
No, it's okay
Yeah.
to make. Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the employee manual CR 81 as written minus the volunteer time piece to be brought back at a later session.
Second.
Please open the vote.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear on the vote, I just have to ask.
Yeah.
So the motion that Councilmember Walker made is, to me, more of a friendly amendment? Or it needs to be like a separate motion to amend vote?
Because there was a main motion made to approve the handbook, and so that's where I think.
Oh, got it. So what do you need
So
from
you can
us?
either withdraw the main motion and the second, or the main motion and the second can consider the motion made a friendly.
I think the main motion and the second can include the friendly motion. Friendly amendment.
So did I don't recall who made the motion, the original motion, but
Councilmember Brown made the motion, Councilmember Lukeman Hiramasa seconded.
so are both the maker and the second comfortable with that being deemed a friendly amendment?
I am, yes.
Okay.
So we're all cool now, right, Corey?
You're all cool pending a vote.
And the vote
Got a little confused there for a minute.
Okay.
Rules
of order. Please
Councilmember
vote.
Brown, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I will close that vote, and CR 81 as amended passes unanimously.
Mayor, may I interject one thing just to close out the loop on what council just approved? So with the approval of Juneteenth, we'll officially observe Juneteenth on June 20th. So we will update the tentative future agendas to reflect that change. And then we will push out information regarding trash service and all of those things as we do with other holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
All right, moving into resolution CR 65. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of Northglenn and Asphalt Specialties Company Incorporated for the ARPA Streets Project.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, Kent Kisselman, Director of Public Works, is here to provide a summary. Hey, Kent.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. First item up is, as stated, the ARPA funding for the streets with respect to 104th and County Road 11. So the total project cost for these is a little over $1 million. We bid this out and we received several bids back. And the lowest responsible bidder was Asphalt Specialties for the amount of $1,071,317.28, which includes a 10% contingency. The areas for this are from Irma east to the border and then from Washington to I-25. And the two in-between sections are from I-25 to the west border was done last year, and the one in between Irma and Washington was done in 2016. So those, then all of 104th will be completed this summer.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to clarify, I got confused. These are all westbound lanes though, right? Because we don't do the Thornton side?
That's correct. And then County Road 11 is up north by the wastewater plant. And it's going to be the section from the water plant north to approximately North Metro, the fire station. So staff recommends approval of this resolution as presented, and I'll answer any questions.
Are there additional questions on any of those roadway segments, Mayor?
I'm just confused by the word east twice in the sentence. I'm like, east?
No, it's just,
East 104th would be the Thornton side, I believe.
No,
it's
no.
just east of
I-20.
Broadway.
Yeah. It's, well, you know, when I do my GPS coming down Grant, it always says like, you know, turn.
Oh, you're on east.
Right,
Okay.
on East 104. Then they're like, wait a minute,
Thank you.
east would be
Sorry.
left. So, yeah.
So the word east in
Yes.
front is not a directional
No,
word.
no.
Okay. Because I was like, I'm so.
The name of the
Okay.
road, yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's confusing.
Urban Drive. Okay, perfect. No, I'm good. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please
Councilmember
vote.
Brown, how do you vote? Sorry. I'm sorry, did you say yes on that?
Well, I did say yes, but I was muted. So yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, I will close that vote, and CR 65 passes unanimously.
Got a quick question. And so, is there an IGA you guys could deal with, like, on when the people turn north from Thornton into Northglenn along Washington and 104th? It does seem that there's always like cars coming during the green light from the Northglenn going into Thornton. Does that make any sense? Like, I've just experienced and heard a lot of.
Say it again. I'm confused.
There's going north on Washington, when they go north and then west, turning left from Thornton into Northglenn side, it seems there's always cars that are going through during the green light when, you know, Northglenn going into Thornton, and it's an issue. I mean, I've experienced it quite a bit when I go to work.
I think that's a traffic question,
yeah.
not a roads question.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know if that's your domain either, but maybe I was saying if that was like an IGA with Thornton or something. I don't.
We have an IGA, but the signal's on 104th we control, so if you could send me an email, maybe explaining what or do a CRM, and we can take a look at it. We are in the process of, you know, installing our new traffic signals.
Okay.
That will have full autonomy over the intersections, and we can physically see what's happening at any intersection at any given time. I believe Kyle's going to work with Diane, side note, sorry. I believe Kyle's going to work with Diane, and we're going to try to put together an informational video on all the happenings with the new traffic signal program, because it's, again, I've said it before, amazing.
Yeah, that's great
But
news.
if you want to
Thank
just
Ken.
send me that response, I'll look into that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on. CR 76. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving addendum number 2 to the professional services agreement between the City of Northglenn and Felsberg, Holt, and Ullvig for the 120th Avenue Improvements Project.
Motion to approve.
Second. All right, Bent is still here. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this is with our 120th design. This is our design team. It's about an $8.8 million project for 120th improvements. It's an 80-20 split with CDOT. The original contract was for the design, just over a little over $1 million. You already approved addendum number 1 for the additional drainage along Ray Street and the outfall over there. This is addendum number 3 or addendum number 2, I apologize, for the construction management. So this is now we're getting into the work, and so the contractor will be submitting RFIs and the shop drawings, and FHU will be actually responsible for what gets built out there, so they'll be going out and making sure that what they designed is actually installed and creating the record drawings for the project. So the addendum is for, addendum number 2 is for, oh my goodness, $46,743. And staff recommends approval of this resolution as presented, and I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Kent on this item?
Sorry, we have 763 on that, Kent. So it's for, now I lost my place. 46,763 or 46,743?
Did I say 43? I meant 60.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that it's 46,763.
63 in the middle, yeah.
63, yes.
Thank you.
I don't see any other questions. Please open
Can
the
I-
vote.
Can I ask a question
Oh.
before we?
Yeah, jump in there.
I've not seen, and Kent, I just haven't seen us, maybe it's the phrasing of it or what? Why is the, why is the project management and meetings during construction, why is that not all included in the original bid? Am I getting confused between building a building and building a road?
Yeah, and this one is such a large project, so it's hard to include those kind of construction management things at the beginning of a project when you don't know the entirety of the project. And again, we've added different scopes and pieces. The Thornton piece was added. We've done additional things with Carl's Farm. So, just through the design phase of the project, it kind of morphs into what it ultimately will be. And then the construction management is here at the end. They estimate, I don't have the original contract, but they may have put together something in their original scope that said they would provide these services. I'm not sure if they put a number to that at that time.
Well, I'm okay with it because such a large amount is coming from TIP. So we've just got a $1 million local. So I am totally cool with that. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you very much, Ken.
No, great question. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
it's,
that. The
I
vote is
just-
open.
Sorry, just reiterate, it's the magnitude of this project.
Right.
Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 76 passes unanimously.
All right, CR 77. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of Northland and Rock Salt Consulting Group Incorporated for construction management services for the 120th Avenue Corridor Improvements Project.
Motion to approve?
Second. All right,
Let's-
Ken. Provide a
here.
summary of this item. Yep.
Right. So this is different than the construction management. This is for construction administration. So this is our protection on the project and to help us administer and control the contractor. Again, the project is about 8.8 million, and with our 80-20 split. This was a little bit different. We reached out to FHU sometimes on big projects. The designer can also do the construction administration. That can get a little wonky at times, so we reached out to FHU. They, didn't have the staff to do it full time, sorry. And then we also reached out to Stanley, and their number was very, very large. And so CDOT has kind of a pre-qual people that they work with and do. And so we looked into Roxol, and we've done work with Roxol before. And so that's why we went ahead and used their number. And that quote for the construction administration is $341,616. And again, they'll be providing the work on the behalf of the city, the observation, the evaluations, the special inspections, change orders, payments, just all that administrative stuff that is needed for this large of a project. And then we'll, as our staff, will back them and support them.
Okay, any questions for Kent? All right, please open the vote.
Vote is open. Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote. CR 77 passes unanimously.
Thank you.
CR 83. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution appointing the Ward 2 resident member to the Community Co-Production Policing Advisory Board of the City of Northglenn, Colorado.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Rupa Venkatesh, Assistant to the City Manager, is here. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So the Ward 2 position on the CCPP board became vacant on January 27th. So it was a pretty long application process that we held open. That application period closed on April 15th. And at that time, council members Brown and Jaramillo looked at all the applications, did their interviews, and decided to move forward Beth McElry's name. Elizabeth, but she goes by Beth. And thank you, Beth, for sticking through the process. And she is here tonight to briefly introduce herself and answer any questions from council. So Beth, come on up.
Hello, nice to meet you.
I might need a box. Yes, hi.
Hi.
I'm Elizabeth McElry, Beth McElry, a longtime resident of Northglenn, and I'm very excited to be nominated to the CCPP. It's a passion of mine, and I really would like to work to help the police and the community work together in a collaborative and transparent way, and really make sure the police have all the resources that they need to police in a way that the community is comfortable with. So.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any questions? I see Councilmember Brown.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for stepping up and representing our ward for this very important assignment. I look forward to working with you in the future, and thank you again for volunteering.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. And also, I wanted to thank you for volunteering and stepping up and doing this. It's wonderful. And also wanted to tell you that I really do appreciate you sitting through such a long meeting before we get to you. So thank you so much, and welcome, to the board.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nice to meet you, Beth. I look forward to working with you on the board. Congratulations, and thank you so much for stepping up. That's all I have to say. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Councilman Jaramillo.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Hello, Beth. It's good to see you here and appreciate your passion so much for our community, and I'm excited to have you on board.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Have a good night.
All right, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote. CR 83 passes unanimously.
Okay, I will now recess the regular city council meeting and call to order a meeting of the Marijuana Licensing Authority. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford is absent. Councilmember Witkovich is also absent. Councilmember Jaramillo.
Here.
Councilmember Lukman Hiramasa.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April 11th, 2022 meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please open the vote.
Councilmember Goff, or I'm sorry, Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and the motion to approve the April 11th, 2022 Marijuana Licensing Authority meeting minutes passes unanimously.
Okay, we have one agenda item tonight, a request for continuance of public hearing on the transfer of ownership application filed by 920104 LLC doing business as Callie's Cannabis Shop. City Clerk Small, can you provide a summary?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So if you'll recall, at the April 11th meeting of the Marijuana Licensing Authority, staff had asked the authority to consider setting a public hearing on the transfer of ownership application that's been filed by 920104 LLC. The public hearing was set for May 9th. The legal counsel for the applicant has asked for a continuance to move that hearing to May 23rd. And if anybody looked at the packet prior to today, you would have seen that the initial request was to continue the hearing until June 27th. However, they amended that request, and they're now asking for the hearing to be held on May 23rd. So staff recommends that the hearing be continued until May 23rd to allow the applicant to be present at the hearing.
Okay, so if you haven't already done so, if you log in, there is sample language for the motion. I cannot make it, so someone needs to pull it up. Go ahead.
I move to approve the request for a continuance filed by 920104 LLC, doing business as Callie's Cannabis Shop, to continue the public hearing on the transfer of ownership application from May 9th, 2022 to May 23rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and the motion to continue the hearing from May 9th to May 23rd, 2022 passes unanimously.
Excellent. I will now adjourn the meeting of the Marijuana Licensing Authority and reconvene the regular city council meeting. We have 2 discussion items tonight. The first one is a municipal court quarterly update. Judge Bailhash is here to present. Judge, good to see you.
I brought Mr. Jason Johnson with me today because, as you could see from my memo, so many of the things that we're updating and changing have happened since he got here. And as I told you when we were here on one of the ordinance pieces, I'm so excited about all the things we're doing and the fresh ideas and fresh perspective he's bringing to the court. So as you all know, Jason, or JJ is what I call him, and he goes by. So JJ started in January. We're still doing our virtual dockets for traffic and code violations, and the reason we're continuing that is to make it easy, give easier access to our court participants, so that people don't have to arrange childcare or miss work, and it allows for a smoother handling of the docket for us. And then we switched, I think the last time I see you, we were using Ring Central, which is what the city is using. Zoom allows us to have breakout rooms where you can have multiple co-hosts. So all of court employees and the prosecutor are co-hosts, so we can move people around the room. So I think it makes for a much more seamless transition, so we can move people around. And so it's been working really well. Northglenn Juvenile Community Service Program is still going really well. As I think most of you know, this is something that was created long before I got to Northglenn, and it's a program that I am so and incredibly proud of. And now that I'm a judge in 2 other municipal courts, the value that this program adds is unreal. I know we have educators on this, members of city council, and we have so many kids that come to court and they're like, I can't go anywhere, I'm charged with theft or shoplifting, nobody will let me do community service, and we just take that barrier away for our families. And Sarah Scari and Eddie Blackwell, who were hired by Tammy Sutton, are really amazing individuals that have a lot to offer. And I think you'll see in our next month's court update, there was a really bad weather day, and so they did life skills classes and had the kids do presentations. So they're just really skilled individuals that are giving us a lot of variety in the program. We're continuing to work with the crew program with Jessica Holtz, who is our main contact. Jamie has also appeared in court. They had an individual that they were working with. So she's been able to come to court. It continues to be a tremendous asset and something that is really beneficial to so many of our defendants that come through court, and even sometimes some of our victims. So it's been great. So it's kind of the basic operations that have been going on, and changes in our updates and changes. The North Metro Diversion Program, the board made some pretty significant changes to the program at the end of the year. So before, the board was made up of no more than 20 members for all of the agencies that are part of the IGA, and they would put out an RFP, they would hire an individual service provider. So common providers in our world are ISAE, NCTI, and then this nonprofit organization, Alternatives for Youth. And this year, the board decided, kind of saw that the needs of the juveniles in the criminal justice system and in the school systems are really changing. You know, back in the late 90s when this started, a lot of kids were getting drug or marijuana tickets, and doing a 4-hour class was kind of dealing with the problem, but kids that are coming into the programs, whether it's through the school system or through municipal courts, they're having bigger issues at home, at school, and having them do a 4-hour class isn't necessarily addressing the issue that they're struggling with. And all of the agencies that are part of the IGA for the diversion program, with the exception of the city of Federal Heights, already have an IGA with the link. So all of these school districts, all of these cities were already paying the link, so we should use them more. Nicole Bruns is the executive director, who's relatively new. I think she's been there for 3 years now, has really been doing a lot of outreach and encouraging us to use the program that we're already paying for. So juveniles who are contacted for drug or alcohol tickets will automatically get a letter from us to go do the intake assessment at the link. The link interviews them and their parents, and then they'll write a report about recommendations. That report gets sent to the court. The prosecutor then reviews it and decides what class or requirements the juvenile should do in order to complete the diversion program. So we're better serving the needs of these juveniles. The goal is to, if we're better serving their needs at the beginning part, then we're going to reduce recidivism. So I know a lot about the diversion program because I'm the board secretary and I was the judicial representative. However, I think it's important to note that diversion programs are really prosecutor programs because it's pre-plea bargaining, pre-plea. And so JJ and his team are responsible for facilitating everything for the prosecutor to get it done. But it's something that we support as a court. You have to go check out our website. Since JJ has gotten here, it's incredible. He's modernized it, he's updated. He kind of has this, I don't know what his mythology is, he can tell you about it, but he's kind of like, Judge, I found this on this drive. Is this something that we should put on the website? I want people to go to our website and find all the information that they need and have it be user-friendly. And so I'm happy if we can put it up on the website, we can kind of click through and I can show it to you, or actually I should have JJ show it to you and he can walk you through it. But there's just so much more information on our website that I think a lot of people are going to be able to find answers to their questions on our website, which I think is great. Also on our website is a video advisement that I did. So when people are waiting for traffic court, I put the link to the video website in the chat. So people are waiting for court, they can watch the video advisement and be advised of their rights. They can watch it before court if they want to. So it's just a lot of modernizing and updating so that we're more user-friendly. And then upcoming changes, because we're doing so much virtually. Some of you were here when I first came, we were exploring how to make our credit card payments more affordable for people when they do it online. So that's on JJ's to-do list. Also on JJ's to-do list is working on developing a text notification system. Our customer service survey is on the website. It's actually one of the first things you see when you go to our website, so people can give us feedback on how we're doing. And he's also in the process of changing the format of the monthly updates that you all get. So it's more than just the numbers. He is hopefully going to do it next month. And man, when you see this, he showed me his draft and it's so much better. It's so much of what we're doing is really exciting. So if you guys have, and then our future projects and goals, one of the things that JJ brings a wealth of information to us is he was a probation officer for over a decade. And so with the state system. So he has really seen a way that a full-time probation officer can really contribute to the court. It's something that I support, and with his vision and kind of really having expertise in the world of probation, we're really excited about presenting that to you for the 2023 budget. We would like to go paperless. It will be a tier transition. We're almost there with traffic court, and so hopefully that will be something that we'll be seeing in the next year. Criminal cases are a bigger step, but the goal is for us to get there. And then Jessica Holes approached JJ about a homeless problem-solving court, which is something that I'm really excited about. JJ's really excited about, and obviously Jessica's excited about. We have, between the three of us, we have a wide breadth of experience in different perspectives. And so I think a problem-solving court would be a wonderful thing to have in Northglenn. We're going to have our first meeting on it next week to kind of just brainstorm and see where we're at. And then we're hoping to, in 2023, also have a designated clerk or administrative assistant for the city prosecutor. And this will make everything more efficient. And like I wrote in my memo, avoid the appearance of impropriety, because we're a part-time court. So much of our court staff is doing administrative work for the prosecutor. And if we have somebody that's designated as the prosecutor's administrative assistant or clerk, it helps kind of have those designated lines. A lot of the stuff, JJ is definitely the leader of, and that's why he's here today, because he's happy to answer any questions that you have that I can't answer. And of course, I'm here to answer any questions that you have. It's a really exciting time for the court. JJ and I have monthly meetings, and he's kind of a breath of fresh air, and it's exciting to be re-energized again.
Yeah, I can feel that up here, which is exciting. I did have a couple questions, really quickly. So the link, is there a cost share to the city for the link services?
I would, yes. I'd have to look back at the IGA. I had Nicole email me the IGA because I was in my capacity as Federal Heights judge, but I don't know, Chief isn't here, Corey's not here. I could pull it up, but
okay,
it's not something that comes under the court. I think the link IGA is usually brought to council either through the police department or the city, right? Through the police department?
Through the police department.
Because it's a
yeah.
juvenile assessment center, right? So when the police go beyond control of a parent, runaway kid, the police department brings the kids to the lake.
Yeah.
And so usually it's facilitated by the police department.
So the reason I ask is because I'm just wondering with this change, or it's not really a change, but if the added workload of the link is, if they're going to need more staff and possibly more money in an increased IGA. Does that make sense?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Right now, the link is underutilized by most cities other than Thornton, and I think it's because it's in Thornton.
Okay. Okay, just checking, because I was just worried about if there was a huge shift. Is that something that we're going to maybe monitor and check in with them? I'm just looking at the language. Now all juveniles must complete an intake. I don't know if that's 3 a week, if it's, 50 a week. So I was just wondering what the impact was.
So it's only drug and alcohol related offenses, and our juvenile offenses are small, unless there's a party.
Okay, that makes sense.
I would say, yeah, we don't, it's not a large amount.
I just wasn't sure from the memo if it was a big deal or not. Okay. Couple other things. I do like the website. Do we offer any other interpreter services other than Spanish?
Yes, so if a person calls and says that they need an interpreter, we will arrange for an in-person interpreter to come.
Okay. Is that let me just look. The Spanish one is just really easy to see, right? Which probably makes sense, but I just wasn't sure if there was, and that is kind of a hard thing. Put in English on your website anyway.
Good feedback, and it's something that we can definitely put on the website. But
Just wondering
if you need a
about
language
that.
other than Spanish, the court
Okay.
can arrange that. Or American Sign Language, right? We have a lot of ASL
Absolutely.
also that comes
Absolutely.
in.
It is kind of an odd thing to put in English, right? Do you need an interpreter? We're telling you that in English. So I don't have a solution for that. It was just a noticing. And then the memo has no budget no financial impacts to the city, and yet there's a heads up that you're asking for a 1.0 FTE. Is that appropriate to put in this memo, or is that just a heads
No,
up?
because that will come in June or July when you start budgeting
Got it.
process.
Okay, I was just putting those. Okay, Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. That was my first question for you or for the judge. Just so you know, Meredith, the parents also have a cost for using the link.
Oh.
So yeah, there's a co-payment for lack of better use of the word.
Okay.
Or so I have heard. So I'm looking at the designated administrative assistant for the city prosecutor portion. Is that another FTE position that you'll be asking for? Or how is that? I don't understand that, I guess is what I'm saying, because there's no mention of an extra FTE who would be doing this job. Is that somebody the prosecutor would bring to the table?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is Jason Johnson, Court Supervisor, and thank you for having me, Mayor and Council. Right now, we have a clerical assistant that is doing about 9 hours a week of work, and we are looking. Part of what I'm doing when I first came in was kind of assessing what job duties were, where people were being utilized the best, and part of one of the issues that we were having was that the prosecutor had many requests during court days, during docket days. We call them docket days, and it disrupted a lot of the court process. And so we had one other person that was doing a lot of administrative work that I'm looking at reassessing to hopefully increase her hours a little bit and to design or to dedicate her directly to the prosecutor, because it would help streamline the court process during these docket days, not taking immediate requests from the clerks and having kind of immediate results for the prosecutor at the same time. So it kind of streamlined the process a little bit better. And sometimes these requests can be, time oriented, or they could be time burden to where a lot of time is taken away from court clerks that should be checking in people or checking out people or fielding calls or being in court, a number of different things. And we could better utilize this one person to hopefully assist with the prosecutor's requests.
I just want to clarify that I'm hearing what you're saying, okay? This person that we already have doing it maybe 9 hours a week is an employee of the city of Northglenn?
Correct.
Is that 9 hours a portion of the normal job description, which is 40 hours? Or is this just a 9-hour position that we're paying for?
Right now, she is at 9 hours per week, and that's what she was hired on to be. What I'm assessing right now, and that's part of what I'm working with Rupa and with the judge and everything else, is how many hours do we need her for to be able to satisfy this kind of, I don't want to say reclassification, but kind of like moving her position from administrative work to administrative work for the prosecutor. It's a different responsibility. It's not just kind of in the background. You're kind of more working directly with the prosecutor on this. So it is somebody that we have hired on right now. She's just kind of working in the background, and I'm looking to kind of dedicate her to a different job duties, if you want to say.
Okay, let's just make sure that we get that in the budget.
Yes.
If we're gonna-
Yes, and that is part of it too, Council. It's not something I'm just doing in the background. It's something that'll be a formal request that I make.
Oh, absolutely. JJ, I wanted to take a minute and thank you for joining the city of Northglenn. You've brought some real great ideas, streamlining processes, bringing us up to current times. And I really do appreciate you joining us. Judge, you're doing a great job too. In choosing JJ was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Very kind. Thank you.
Mayor, if council would like, I have link information if you want me to share that with you briefly to support what the judge has said.
Sure.
This IGA was brought to council on February 14th, and the annual amount's $34,472, and that was an increase of $324, which the PD did bring that forward. So.
I knew I had seen it. I just
Yeah,
wasn't sure
I
what
couldn't
the-
remember how
what the
long ago.
impact was
Yeah.
going to be with this change, but it sounds like it's okay.
Minimal.
Well, I don't see any other questions.
I just want to say, I do like the new website. Looks good, thank you.
All magical work.
Well, thank you both for your work,
Thank you.
and I think we'll move ahead. All right, the next item, Ward 3 Council Vacancy Interview Questions. City Clerk Small is here to discuss.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So this item was scheduled to give council an opportunity to discuss the interview questions or review them, and then also for staff to receive feedback on a few items for the Ward 3 Council interviews that will be held on May 2nd. So I'm going to go a little backwards here. You'll notice in the packet that it was amended earlier this afternoon to include a third attachment, and that is a draft interview schedule. So as you're aware, we received 8 applications for the Ward 3 position. That draft schedule shows 20 minutes for each interview with a 10-minute break in the middle. And so that is just intended to give council an idea of what the meeting next Monday might look like. Staff looked at other cities' practices regarding conducting a council vacancy process, and they all do it a little differently. But the 3 main practices that we found were some wait and decide on interview questions immediately prior to the interviews. So essentially to not allow time for the applicants to prepare, for specific questions. Some provide the set list of questions to the applicants so that they can prepare for the interviews. And then some have decided on an overall list of questions, for instance, maybe 20 questions, and then they decide on which questions they will actually ask immediately prior to the interviews. So it gives applicants an opportunity to prepare, but they still don't know which questions will be asked on the day of the interviews. There are 3 other considerations that were listed in the staff memo, and I'll just run through those really quickly. Staff is asking council if you would like applicants to have the opportunity to provide a closing statement. If the interviews are scheduled for 20 minutes each. We don't recommend increasing that time at all based on 8 applicants. Is there a desire from council to establish a time limit for each question, say 2 minutes per question? Or should the applicants manage their own time with the understanding that a set number of questions will be asked of them? And then the third consideration is, does council want to utilize a rating form to establish a numeric score for each applicant to be used as a starting point for deliberation? We've done both a written form, we've done an electronic form. We can create the form if it's helpful for council to have that numeric value to kind of lead off the deliberation at the end. So the packet materials contain 2 different lists of questions. The 10 questions that were used previously for the Ward 4 interviews in 2021, and then a list of several new questions or potential questions for council to look at. I think as I stated in the email, this is council's process. You can come up with your own questions. It is completely up to you. Those are just intended to be suggestions. So with that being said, I am happy to receive input on the questions and on the timing of determining which questions you would like to use for the process.
Councilmember Brown? Oh, Becky, you're still muted.
Gosh, and I was just telling Joe, why do I do that? I'd rather be in person. Joanna, these questions are so good. And I feel like they get down to the root of what we're trying to ask. They're the best questions that we've had, I think. My question to my fellow council members and the mayor is, we want to provide these questions to our 8 candidates, let them complete them, return it to us, and then we only ask on the ones that we have, once we get a perspective, we can ask clarification on it, or is it rude to ask them to complete this before the interview? I think that would help speed up the interview process a bit, because I would like to ask every single candidate every single one of these questions. They're wonderful.
So, that's a really good question. I actually wanted to start by asking Councilmember Lukman-Hiramasa about her experience and to just see, she's the only one here that has gone through this process. So as an applicant, what was the process like for you the last time?
Meredith, Councilmember Walker has also been through the process when we had the opening in Ward 1.
Oh, sorry. Oh, wow. You are correct. I apologize. Thank you for the clarification.
So from what I remember, just because I probably blacked out some of that, I thought it was great. I mean, I was nervous. I didn't have any time to prepare for any of the questions, but it felt more like conversations between the council members, which I really liked. I mean, it's nice to be prepared, but it's also nice to see what folks come up with and why. I think you can be a little bit more genuine. What you express tends to be more genuine, less preparation. Of course, you'll be prepared to some extent. There's no way around that. Your research, guess at what the questions are and so forth. So, like for me, I know it was fine. I personally did not watch what happened afterwards. I didn't want to see. I just got the email that I was nominated for the spot. So I chose not to watch that process. I started watching a little bit a long time ago but for me, I thought the process was okay. I didn't feel like I was waiting too long. I didn't feel like it went too long. I do think that maybe having a time limit is helpful for everyone, just because it can get a little wordy, or I know when I was speaking, I wasn't quite sure, like, should I keep saying something, or, I elaborate more. So having a time limit, I think, is a good thing, because you're going to say the most important things that you want to say in those 2 minutes, kind of like the form, where you're like, you're done.
Yeah.
That was my experience was great. I mean, it's nerve-wracking. I enjoyed just having those questions pop out. Yeah.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess we've got 2 sets of questions. So the original set of questions that we've always had, that we did in the past, to me, the last 3, any of the last 3 could go, or all of the last 3. And so I would like to add from the new list of questions, at least 1, if not more, on the teamwork and collaboration stuff. I really think that that's important to hear from whoever this is. Maybe like number 21 or 22, just kind of to get a sense of whoever, the candidates' attitudes about how you deal with disagreements or differing points of views, that kind of thing. So that, I think, maybe we need to kind of go through or make some decision about the questions. And then I don't think they need to be published ahead of time. I mean, I don't really care one way or the other as long as it's the same for everybody,
So here's a question I have, and I don't know if this supports Councilmember Brown's wondering, is, because there's some on here that I think we can dump. They don't have a ton. I mean, there's 45 on here, but
Right.
I guess what I'm wondering is, anybody that is applying could be zooming into tonight's meeting. So are we essentially giving them the questions?
Well, that's
by-
why I didn't say.
by publicly
out loud.
deciding. So I guess that's a question for Corey is, how do we do both, right? How do we have this meeting right now and make decisions and then, keep a process tight for the interview committee?
Well, you could certainly use email individually to the city clerk, for example, and she could compile the questions in some way that you came up with. So I don't know if there's a good way to do it publicly.
Right.
And it's unfortunately not, there's state law that explicitly says you can't do it in executive session.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if we all
Okay.
have the list, you could at least refer to them by number, and then you don't have to
But
read
this
them
is
all.
in the packet.
Yeah, the list is public record.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Okay.
we have to ask the same questions of each candidate, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yes.
has to, however many questions we determine, they have to be the same ones.
That is correct.
I mean, I do like the idea that Corey mentioned, is that we each go through and then we send an email to Joanna with the ones that are our favorite.
And what, like keep it to 8 or 10 or something?
Well, I think if everyone submits 4,
Okay.
right, then
I was
know.
with you. Amber.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, you could, but then Joanna would be in charge of trying to whittle it down to the themes that she sees, that council is sending her.
And she has
And then
1 week
maybe
to do it.
publish I know we're adding to your work, but
Yeah.
then you could publish like, okay, this is where I landed based on all of the emails from council. I think we need to I do believe we need to limit the times.
Mm-hmm.
Not per question, though. I would like to see if they can manage their own time. So if they run out of time, then they just don't get to answer all the questions, and that tells us something. I do support the scores because that has been helpful in the past to begin a conversation that way, and they have been very just informative, the trends. Jay, did you want to jump in? No?
Yes, I just want to say that I do believe that we should have a time limit for each question because sometimes I think people can just go on and on and on, and
They get
we
nervous,
only know about 1 or 2 things, I would say.
Yeah.
2 questions, so I could see it going that way. I mean, just like when we had our, as we mentioned again, the candidate forum, we had
Okay.
a couple minutes, and then I kind of it'll still be like that same kind of simulation of that, and I think that would be more effective, and instead of we'll just going on and on and only getting 2 or 3 questions done. I think it'd be a better assessment.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be okay with the, saying overall time, but there has to be some way for them to see like a timer ticking of how much time they're spending. Yeah, I know,
Is
we
that
can
timer?
see that there. I don't know if they can see it.
They have it on their side,
Oh, they
too.
do too?
Yeah,
So if it
we
showed
can use
them-
that, yeah.
So if they could see that, then I kind of like Meredith's
Okay.
idea of them managing their time, but, I mean, I do hear you, Jay, but that would be their decision.
Oh.
If they could see the time.
Yeah.
We could just tell them, about 2 minutes a question, but we're not going to stop you or something like.
I think with the timer right in front of them.
Yeah.
Although it does take time away from their question when we are reading it, right? We're taking some of their time by reading the question to them. So is it that we could time each question?
Could Joanna set the timer after we ask the question?
Just think.
Yeah, we can run the timer however we choose to. In my mind, I'm just thinking if we do 2 minutes per question, we're just increasing the overall interview time. If we don't
Yeah.
incorporate time for the questions to be asked. So we're going to get off schedule from the start. I will note that we did increase the time from 15 minutes per interview that we've used previously to the 20 minutes. So that may help, but
Yeah, I guess I just think that, in terms of simplicity, if we just say, look, you got 20 minutes, we're estimating about 1 minute to 2 minutes for answering each question, and then just let the timer run, and we just have to, not delay asking the question.
That's fair.
From Corey's perspective, is that okay if we don't hit all 6 same questions or 8 same questions with every person?
If you have the same list of questions and what causes all of the questions not to be answered is that they run out of time, that is acceptable.
Thank you.
So if we're looking at 20 minutes, 10 questions is a lot. Do we want to try to limit it to 8 or 9?
I think
Nicola,
8, we could do it with 8. When you look at our original set, some of these questions are kind of similar, or at least they overlap.
Yeah.
And I know in a lot of these interviews, even for the diversity board or anything, people, when they start off at answering their first question, sometimes they answer the next question without even knowing it because they give you more than you're asking.
To Shannon's point, one question per council member would be 8 questions.
True.
So that's fair. Councilmember Walker, I see.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do support the overall time limit Mr. Corey was talking about. I do also support putting out the questions ahead of time. I know when I did my process, it made me dig into everything, including 360 assessment. Took a lot of research and understanding the questions. To me, it's important to see how much homework these applicants did before. So I would support putting
Would you support putting out the 8 that we select, or like a list of 20, knowing that we're going to select?
I actually like the 20 idea because it really, I mean, with the 8, I mean, one of them on there is introducing.
Yeah.
So we're taking away from some key issues. So maybe the 20 and
So if we collect 20 and then we select 8, are we,
As long as you're selecting the same 8 for each candidate.
yeah. Yeah, because some of these, like, I don't know, 43 could go.
Yeah, and just to jump in, it wasn't intended for the entire 45 to be the list of questions.
Yeah.
I mentioned that in the email that a lot of these questions are very, very similar. They're just worded a little different. And we did that in order to just try to help council pick the very best fit possible. So there are many questions that are very similar.
I like the themes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the, if you received $1 million grant to use in the city. I love that.
That was just the one I said could go. I was like, that one can go. Who needs that one? But I guess other people like it. So that actually points out what might happen when we all send Joanna different questions, right? I mean, not that it's that big of a deal, Councilmember Brown, but that was one I thought could go and you liked it. So if we end up in that situation, what is Joanna to do?
I think that if we were to send her 10, she could, you know, like we do during some of our other meetings where we're tasking them and counting them. I think she could dwindle it down. Even if we were to send her 20, she could find the top 10 for all of us.
Well, we're
We're
talking
giving
about
her
8.
a mathematical problem. Well, what if we prioritize what we send, right? So I can say, this is my number 1 question, and then I can send, I don't know, maybe as many as I want, as long as I prioritize them.
I like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, you're posing the question of, you know, one person sends in this question, they love it, and the other person, you know, hates it or whatever. But I think the thing is what Joanna's going to get is the ones that we want. And so if somebody proposes one and nobody else proposes anything like it, then that question probably just won't make the list. And I think I'm fine with it.
Okay, yeah, me too. I mean, at the end of the day. Okay, so, all right, let's come up with a final.
Can I ask
Yes.
one question? So
Totally.
since we're doing that, are we just wiping clean the old questions? It's not going to strike them out one by one. We're just going to start a whole new list.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I mean, you can look at those if you love them. That can be your number 1.
Well, number 1, I think, of the old one should probably stay.
But you know, it's funny because I like the number 1 of the general one. It goes a little deeper.
The old questions or the
One
new
that
ones?
says general,
Attachment
number 1.
Okay, so from the new.
Like that one kind of digs in a little bit more than the first one.
It's actually 2.
That is true. Yeah, I like it. So anyway, okay. So those of us that are here, and then maybe, Joanna, would you be willing to send council members, Witkovich and Mayor Pro Tem, what we decided?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. I would just ask that we receive those questions sooner rather than later.
Right.
So that
Okay.
if the idea is to provide the applicants with a list of, say, 20 questions, that we can do that by mid-week, possibly, since the interviews are scheduled for Monday.
Midweek meeting, just give me a date.
Like, is Wednesday unreasonable? Doable?
So in 2 days, yes.
Yeah.
No, I can do
Yeah,
it. I just am trying to get it in my head. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so by end of business on the 27th or by midnight?
Oh, midnight. I like working
Okay.
with midnight. I'm good with that.
I
You okay
might
with-
need those extra. Okay, so we're gonna prioritize, so I'm gonna send Joanna an email, and I'm gonna put the questions I like in order that I like them. So my favorite question will be at the top, and I'm gonna send, do we wanna say 10? Up to 10?
Yeah, I mean, when somebody said 20, and I thought, that's a lot.
You know, so she can weed out the duplicates or the ones that don't match or whatever. Yeah, I think it.
Right. So if we all send prioritized lists of 10 questions, and then Joanna's going to put them into some sort of magical
And
machine.
if 10 seems daunting to some council members, if you just want to shoot over your favorite 2,
Okay.
favorite 3,
Yeah.
I think that works.
Up to 10.
Yeah.
But ranked. Okay. And then you're going to generate a list of 8. Or are you going to generate a list of 20? And then we're going to whittle it down to 8 day
20
of.
Well, I thought we were giving them ahead of.
I think that was an idea. I don't like that idea.
Oh,
Not
that's
in
right.
that way.
You were suggested giving them the 20 ahead of.
Yeah.
And tell them, then, okay.
I think
Got
they
it.
should have a bunch to prepare, but they don't know which ones we're going to ask.
Yeah. And then we'll be,
I thought,
20 and we pick 8, right?
okay.
I think these questions really make you think about the city and the role. I mean,
Yeah.
and what they're getting themselves into. And, sometimes people don't really understand what we do, or they haven't done the back work or the legwork, and this will help them prepare for whomever we choose to bring on to council.
Totally. Okay. I'm just trying to paraphrase what we've decided. Not trying to create new ideas, but so we're prioritizing up to 10 questions to Joanna by Wednesday at midnight. She's going to generate a list of 20 that can be shared with applicants. And then night of, we will each pick the 8 that we want to ask. Does that work? Or how are we going to do that part?
I don't know how you will each pick the 8. You will have to collectively pick the 8 because they have to be the same 8.
Joanna's going to make
About the top 8.
Oh, the top, well, but then they'll know that it's the top 8.
No, we can put them in random order in there.
Okay, you send us the top 8 and then randomize it and send it to them.
With the 20.
We're sending them 20. 8
Right.
is
Right.
So my understanding is we're going to provide all of the applicants, they'll all receive the same information, the list of 20 questions. From those 20 questions, I can prepare, if each of you have a clear favorite, I can prepare those 8 questions. We can move forward with that. If you'll, on the schedule, there's 10 minutes that's set aside at the very beginning of the meeting. If council takes a look at those 8 questions, or if you change your mind in the next few days and think, oh, I really want to swap out a question, I've thought about it and I love this one better, then maybe in those 10 minutes, we can just confirm that those top 8 questions with an intro question, or if needed, and a closing question, is what we want to move forward with for those interviews that night. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
I only have one more question. I didn't see it on here. These are just all the questions, but I remember I provided a resume. We're going to be asking for that this time.
We did encourage the applicants to attach a resume, letters of support from the community, really any accompanying documents that they wanted to provide. So what council will receive is a copy of their application, which there were several questions that they responded to in writing for the application itself, and then any accompanying documents that they submitted. So a lot of the applicants did provide a resume.
Okay.
Mhm. And you'll receive that in advance of Monday's meeting.
Yes. Okay. Are we clear on that? We're good? We think? Okay. Questions to Joanna by Wednesday at midnight. Excellent.
I'm sorry, just one follow-up question from me now. Did we land on just controlling the timer for the overall interview and having the applicant manage their own time? So they'll see 20 minutes and it'll just tick down? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
We can add an intro sentence maybe that every applicant says, you get 20 minutes, you need to manage your own time. There's 8 questions. The timer in front of you will start.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll communicate that as well when we set up the interview times.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments must be related to an item previously addressed by the council during the meeting. And there's nobody left. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council at this time? You may press star 6 to unmute. All right, seeing none. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session. 1, pursuant to Section 4.5A of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for personnel matters regarding the municipal judge contract. And 2, pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding water rights.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Brown, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
We will adjourn to the executive session and take a break while we pack up.